Yo, what's up, man?
Yeah, अभी आए हो यार.
Hey, dude, I'm sorry
You
about
were
that.
not there. You were not there. I was checking all the time.
Dude, I swear to God, ask Sven. Hey, Sven, what time did I come? Like, I was there. Ask him, man. I said, it's Sven's fault. Sven's fault that I'm late. I was supposed to show up at 11. He came late, man. It's Sven's fault. And dude, I swear I came out at 12 o'clock. I've been here. I set up your tripod, buddy. Look, I'm on the tripod today. Check this out. Check this
अच्छा
out.
मान लिया भाई मान लिया. You were on time.
Look at this. Look how this is happening. Have you ever seen this? Have you used your tripod like this, buddy? Check this out, man. All the good stuff with the tripod. Now I don't have to do all of that. Your tripod. Hey, where's Abby Phillips? He's awake, man. He's watching this. He's secretly watching this. I approve some people, okay? Some fake profiles. I don't know if you saw some fake profiles. I approve them.
मैंने अभी किसी को डिक्लाइन किया था. किसी ने Facebook 5 मिनट पहले ज्वाइन किया था 11 बजने से पहले. तो फिर
Oh, I
मैंने उसको
approve
हटा
that guy.
दिया. I'm not sure.
I approved him. I'm sorry, dude.
अब मैंने डिक्लाइन कर दिया.
But I just approved that guy. That Rana, is that the guy?
हाँ राना.
I just approved it. I approved Rana and one more fellow. Some Rana. I'm like, all these dude, that Rana is Abby Phillips, I'm telling you. He's secretly watching. Hey, Abby Phillips, where are you, man? He's on the group too. I tagged him. Is he coming?
He is in the group.
But is he watching? Is he coming?
No,
is he joining?
he's not.
You told me he's going to join, buddy.
No, मैंने कब बोला?
You said the likelihood of him coming is significant.
मैंने बोला
Statistically significant.
Instagram पे schedule करके करेंगे तो he will come and join.
Oh, so he'll join on Instagram, not on Facebook.
No, I'm not sure. अभी late भी हो गया ना यार इतना. So you cannot expect.
The night is young, man. He was up till 1 o'clock typing away yesterday. You saw those comments? And then he woke up.
I read the comments.
We woke up in the morning before he brushed his teeth. He's sending me long comments, man. I'm done with comments, man. We go
and
live.
Actually, he had dropped me a message that he's willing to join a discussion. Maybe by end of the month. He said that he had your this back and forth with you in the comments, and he's ready to come live. Just that he has to complete some work.
Hey, I don't buy that. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now you know I don't have anything against Abby. But dude, if you have so much time to type these long ass comments, man, on Instagram at night, what we were going back and forth 11 to 1 last night, and today in the morning also, he sent me these two long ass compositions. If he can type those comments for me, dude, just come live and settle it, man. It's simple.
Let's see. Let him finish his work. Let's see. Now, what are we talking about today? What is the?
All right, man. So there are a few things which we need to touch on. Okay, so last time when I showed up, see, you know me, buddy. I was incredibly kind and respectful because I like what Abby is doing. Okay, he's standing up to a lot of, let's just call them rubbish products, okay, which are okay. He's standing up to them. He's grabbed Herbalife by the collar, man. You don't do that to Herbalife. So what he's doing is bloody awesome. So respect to him for that. But I feel he's caught on to this aggressive, evidence-based stance where he's turning a blind eye to a lot of remedies which have a lot in the way of evidence to support their efficacy, to support their use. Now, come on, man. Now, whoever's watching here, whoever's live here, I don't know nutrition codes if you guys have ever discussed, but within our community, ashwagandha is something which nutritionists tend to recommend. Okay, dietitians tend to recommend. Do you have experience with ashwagandha?
I don't have personally ever taken ashwagandha. I took once, but with me the problem is the consistency with these supplements. So I try and avoid, and I never needed it. So in general, but I have suggested it to a few people. I won't lie about it. I have done that.
Yeah, and that's cool, right? It's absolutely cool because it's not that ashwagandha is being carelessly recommended. There's data to support its efficacy. If you check out that stupid website, examine.com, which everyone wants to refer to, okay?
That's where I
Even
read it from.
sorry,
That's where I read it from,
that's
the whole ashwagandha thing.
yeah, that's what fitness professionals and nutritionists tend to rely on, right? It's like this it's like this go-to resource, okay? If you want to be a little lazy and you want to know what works, you go on examine.com. Problem is examine.com isn't that great. For another day, okay, examine.com. But yeah, if you would like, let's say, go on examine.com and just read that article, you get a bunch of references, man. Okay. And Avi should be familiar with examine because he has I believe, an interview on
Yeah,
examine.com.
yeah.
Yeah. So, man, if you are willing to do an interview with examine.com and if you're kind of remotely familiar with examine.com, man, that shortcut way of figuring out what ashwagandha is should tell you, man, that ashwagandha is not something which is carelessly recommended. It's there's a lot in the way of research to support its use. Now, here's what happened. I came about, okay, and I asked him about this. Like, your hardcore stance against Ayurvedic remedies. Uh, you may be misrepresenting some Ayurvedic practitioners. In fact, a lot of Ayurvedic practitioners, and this tends to happen, in these science groupies. I don't know if you're familiar with people who are against vaccinations and against genetically
Yeah,
modified foods.
yeah.
Um, even within the atheism community, okay, sorry, believers, okay, like so, there's this atheism versus God debate which tends to happen, okay, GMOs versus non-GMO debates, and vaccination versus not getting vaccinated. And the problem I see is, there are people on two ends of the spectrum. One is like, oh, we must get vaccines. Yay, vaccines for the win. Yay, 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 vaccines, vaccines, vaccines. Look, I got vaccinated. I'm so proud. And then the other side is like, no, man, vaccines cause autism. They're bad, they're bad, they're bad. This guy strikes me as in the science groupie community, where he's like, hey, Ayurveda bad, Ayurveda bad, okay, evidence-based medicine, pure science. He tends to use these phrases which kind of remind me of that sort of a community. Another example, dude, when we were talking, he's like, oh, there must be a meta-analysis for ashwagandha. I'm like, no, man. So, of course, I'm going off on tangents right now. But you don't need a meta-analysis. You don't even need a systematic review. Why do you need a
And
meta?
as far as I remember, when you spoke about this study, uh, he said that it's not about one study. He needs a group of studies to maybe conclude something.
Of course, I'm not making my case for ashwagandha based on Chandrasekhar 2012. I Firstly, I'll tell you what he did. Okay, come on, you saw it. You can deny it, but you saw it. He
No,
tried to
I
put me
am
on the
aware of
spot.
what happened.
He tried to put me on the spot. He's like, oh, let's see. Okay, you're saying, okay, ashwagandha is good and everything. Name a few studies, but he did that. He tried to put me on the spot. He's like, okay, name a study, name a few studies, and name a few journals they're publishing. Now, dude, most of the times people forget. Okay, so I was willing to like look into my phone and pull out
And
something.
I was kind of impressed that at least you remember the name of one study you pulled out. Pulled out one study. मैं तो नाम भी भूल जाता हूँ किसी का. तो मुझे उस time पे हाँ लगा that you pulled it out.
I'll tell you why I remember Chandrasekhar. As I don't just remember Chandrasekhar. I could have said Wankhede. I could have said Deshpande. I could have said Rao. I could have said Nangade. I was going to recite these. But as soon as I said Chandrasekhar, he's like, stop. He's like, stop. That paper sucks. Okay, that study sucks. It's underpowered. It's a bogus paper. This and that. He went off on Chandrasekhar. And then he's like in the comments, he's telling me, why didn't you recite more papers? Why are you stuck on Chandrasekhar? I'm like, because you stopped me at Chandrasekhar, number one. And number two, you're unfairly criticizing Chandrasekhar. Now, the reason you asked me, why do I remember Chandrasekhar? Dude, if you read Chandrasekhar 2012, it's very difficult to forget that paper. It's incredibly difficult to forget that paper because we'll go through that paper together. And I promise you, you'll never forget Chandrasekhar 2012. What Chandrasekhar demonstrated and the way he designed the style, it's not easy to forget it. Just like I remember Bhasan, okay? Okay, Bhasan, now I don't remember the exact date, but around the late 90s, I believe 95, 99 is when he was publishing some pretty cool research, man, on testosterone. And speaking of Bhasan, here's another connection which I feel is important we touch on because you've seen that evidence-based hierarchy,
Yeah.
in vitro studies, then
Pyramids. Yeah.
yeah, okay, then there's like animal research and case studies, and then we watch cohort studies, then there's some observational studies kind of thing. Then there's randomized controlled trials, and then there are meta-analyses and systematic reviews. Meta-analyses and systematic reviews are considered the creme de la creme of scientific evidence. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I call that, I say bullshit to that. That is grade A bullshit. Okay? It's like those, have you seen those muscle and strength pyramids and those nutrition pyramids? Okay? Now, see, man, I respect hands, okay? But I don't respect those pyramids. There are problems with those pyramids. Okay? Let's touch on meta-analysis and systematic review.
Just a second, Aman. Someone commented that they are facing the audio issues.
Can you connect your headset, man?
From my side, it's completely clear. With the earphones, there was some problem. Maybe let me try it once again. Now, is it audible? Is it
Let's
clear?
see if I'm speaking, is it good? Let's testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. It's better now. Like I feel it's better. What is everyone else saying?
Someone says that Aman Duggal issue is with your audio.
Hey, stop blaming me. How do you know that, man? Now
That
it's
is
fine.
very side.
Look, now everyone is saying loud and clear. See, it's with you, Aman Bindra. See,
Achha.
clear. Aman Duggal issue is with you. Why? Because you like Aman Bindra more. That's why the issue is. Huh? Look at this guy, Ravendra. He's another Reddy. Why? Because you're friends with Balakrishna Reddy. Is it? Huh? What else, buddy? Okay. So, where was I? Oh, meta-analysis. Okay. Now, what is a meta-analysis? You think about it. It's a study of studies.
Yeah. I remember reading again this on Examine that it has a lot of problems when you talk about meta-analysis. There are problems with it. I don't remember the exact words, but I remember reading that recently.
Dude, some of the worst papers I've read are systematic reviews and meta-analysis. There's also, I don't know if we should touch on this. There's like if someone wants to get published, for example, I wrote a systematic review, right, on nutrition for the vegan athlete. Okay. I did that instead of publishing research, instead of conducting a study, because writing a review is easier, buddy. Looking at everyone else's work and then summarizing it is easier. And it gets published too. And then because it's right on top of that pyramid, everyone's like, oh, systematic review. Why do you think Menno Henselmans is publishing meta-analysis? Why do you think so? That's nothing special, okay? A meta-analysis is simply a study of studies, okay? So you get multiple studies, okay? You get, let's say, participants in one study, participants in another study, and you want to kind of make sure that, okay, those studies are close enough as far as methodology is concerned. You don't want to like club participants from all over the place, right? So yeah, you take these bunch of studies, you combine the subjects, you put the subjects together, and then you apply statistical tests on that. It's basically a study of studies. That's it. A very crude way of defining this is you use multiple studies to increase your sample size and then statistically analyze
Yeah.
what the body of research shows on a given subject. Anyone can fucking do that, man.
And if I'm not sure if I'm right on this side, individual studies can have a problem, but then just because you're clubbing them together, the result might differ.
Yeah, you can say that. Like for example, if there's one study which is problematic, like for example, take the HMB paper which Jacob Wilson published.
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
if you want to do a meta-analysis of for HMB and you use the Wilson paper, that one paper has the potential to skew the meta-analysis in another direction because the effect was so profound, and now we know that there was something happening there. He came under a lot of fire for that. Dude, they showed that HMB is better than steroids, man. Jacob Wilson. Lane Norton's friend. Lane Norton loves that guy. So yeah. So that can be a problem. That's a good point you brought up. Having said that though, that's all a meta-analysis is, man. Hey, yo, I'll pitch my university. Join the Aman Duggal University. I'll teach you how to perform a meta-analysis. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. If you know how to use SPSS, heck, you don't even need SPSS, man. If you understand a little statistics, you can perform your own meta-analysis sitting at home and publish it, man. Publish it. Imagine publishing a meta-analysis on ashwagandha or anything else. Oh my goodness, everyone's going to be like, wow, man, wow. I'm telling you, Jitendra Chokshi is going to sign up for Aman Duggal University and he's going to publish a meta-analysis and then he'll be like, I'm so scientific now. Yeah, think about this, man. A meta-analysis is only as good as the individual studies which make up that meta-analysis. So you can't ignore the studies, you can't ignore the RCTs. And who is to say, for example, let's say we have a meta-analysis today on ashwagandha, and tomorrow we have a metabolic ward trial which is published, a randomized control trial, a nice, awesome, well-controlled study, a metabolic ward trial. But that's not part of the meta-analysis because it came after. Now
कंसिडर
what?
नहीं करेंगे क्या उसको ऐसा हाँ राइट
Yeah. Hey,
just because it's not part of the bigger picture doesn't mean
yeah,
it doesn't hold
doesn't
the
mean it
value.
doesn't count.
Hmm.
Yeah. Take Kevin Hall studies on uh, low carbohydrate diets, low versus high carb, keto versus high carb. That came out after many meta-analysis, man, comparing low versus high carbohydrate diets. Does that mean Kevin Hall's metabolic ward trials don't hold weight because they fall below that pyramid, below that level in that pyramid? That's not how it works. See, man, this is where things get childish. When you have pyramids and you have like ranks, oh, meta-analysis number one, okay, systematic review number two, RCT number three. Come on, man, that's childish. That's not how interpreting research works. You cannot say that, oh, we need a meta-analysis, oh, we need a systematic review. Come on. If you truly want to learn how to interpret research on a given topic, start reading primary research and read all the papers and look at each paper on a case-by-case basis, derive some information from it, and then move on to the next paper and so on and so forth. A meta-analysis or a systematic review is just a lazy snapshot, man. If you're just new to research and you're not sure where to begin, pick up a systematic review, man. Okay, you'll get a lot of references there. You can always go back to that systematic review for references and things like that. But you need to study primary research. And primary research is of incredible importance. Coming back to Bhasan, we started this with Bhasan, right? Before Bhasan published his data on testosterone, his trials, his randomized controlled trials on testosterone, you know what the reviews on testosterone said? The reviews on testosterone before Bhasan came along with his research was that, testosterone is very dangerous and it doesn't do anything. It's only after Bhasan,
Dangerous as in
dangerous as in for it has there are health consequences to taking
actually.
to injecting testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
But those health consequences were blown out of proportion. What Bhasan was able to demonstrate was that, hey, listen, this injectable testosterone, man, it can change a lot of things. I think I shared that study wherein they had a group which just took testosterone, sat at home, didn't exercise, and they built more muscle
Yeah,
compared to the
you
group.
referred to it. You didn't share it. You referred to it, but I was able to kind of get my hands into the whole Bazin studies through
Yeah,
this one of the article of James Krieger. So I went through it, and there were
yeah.
references to it, and I went and checked there.
The Bazin
Hmm.
studies are classics, man. And yeah, you know another thing. We keep referring back to Bazin. It's an old paper, right? 99. Does that mean that we can't refer back to it? Man, Bazin was able to do some things in 99 which we may not be able to do today. That's a reality. Some of the older research which is done just because it was published 10 years ago or 50 years ago doesn't make it irrelevant. Doesn't mean that we cannot derive value from it. Man, muscle biopsy studies. Good luck trying to find participants for muscle biopsy studies. Most of that comes from 1950s, man.
Hmm.
Great. That's like the gold standard, man, of studies in that realm. What else do we have? There's so much stuff which was well established um, 50, 60 years ago. Newton's laws, man. They're well established then. What? There's so much. So this whole idea that oh we need a meta-analysis, oh a newer study is better, man, that's childish. And coming back to Bazin, it's only after Bazin published his research that we then realize that oh man, this injectable testosterone is a thing. When you take testosterone like this, man gains and strength. And people are going to hate on this, but it's the truth. Using anabolic steroids the right way isn't as dangerous as most people think it is. Most people are just lazy. Okay. Now I'm not claiming to be an expert on PED use. Okay, I'm not. But the data I've seen on PED use, okay, I'm like, really? People have blown this out of proportion. And it's easy, no, it's easy to latch onto a sound bite and say that,
Abhi,
oh,
this is out of context, but I have a question, personal question on this particular thing.
yeah,
So, as far as I am aware of these things, as far as I have read through few forums and stuff. So, there are people, I mean, they would inject steroids, they would take all the things in this world, but once they leave it, they are completely okay with it. Then there are also people who would inject it once, maybe run one cycle, and they kind of can do a lot of damage to them. So,
yeah,
is this a true statement?
of course, man, because it's incredibly complicated. There are so many drugs. There is so much. There is so much, man. If you think there are a lot of supplements, oh man, you start looking at drugs. Ooh, the you will trip, dude, if you see the amount of stuff which is out there which people use. And what sort of stuff? Is it farmer grade or is someone preparing it in their kitchen? So there's a
I
lot.
have a few friends using it, so I'm a little aware about a few things about it.
Yeah, and the funny part is we actually get pretty decent stuff in India. A lot of stuff which the Americans use, it either comes from Egypt or India. Because you got good stuff here, you get nice farmer grade testosterone here, and a lot of other stuff also. But yeah, man. So Bhazin's randomized control trials just heckled the reviews, man. Those reviews were well established that testosterone doesn't do anything and super duper dangerous. And then we see the Bhasin studies and we find out, oh, testosterone is something. Oh, it's more than a little something. People without exercising are building strength and muscle. And it's not as dangerous. So, yeah, people are going to trip now. They'll be like, oh, they're going to latch onto this. No problem. I'll debate anyone. Hey, I'll debate anyone. You want to debate steroids? No problem, man. Give me a topic. Give me a stance. I'll debate it. You know why? Because Aman Bindra knows this. I was on the side of evidence-based medicine. Okay, allopathy, evidence-based medicine. I'm so desperate for a debate. I changed my stance. I'm on Team Ayurveda now. Do something. Okay. And it's all Aman Bindra's fault. He doesn't. He's calling Abby Phillips for debates. He calls some other Ayurvedic doctor for a debate. You didn't invite me. You're always like, dude, you host the debate. Why don't you invite me for the debate?
I was the first one to ask you if you're interested into this. You're like, if you're calling someone, if there is already someone, I would not mind hosting it.
Because there was already someone. You asked someone before you asked me. Now what do? I say, hey, Abby Phillips, hey, go away, man. I want to be on. Okay, I want to take. I want to steal your thunder. My
अरे पर
original plan.
मेरे को ऐसा था ना कि एविडेंस बेस्ड वो ऑलरेडी किसी का स्टांस था फॉर एग्जांपल एबी वाज ऑलरेडी देयर सो आई वाज ट्राइंग टू फाइंड समवन हु कैन रिप्रेजेंट आयुर्वेदा बट द गाय हु वाज रिप्रेजेंटिंग आयुर्वेदा ही कुडंट मेक इट तो अभी आई एम अवेयर दैट यू यूज्ड टू राइट ऑन दिस स्टफ मेरे को शुभम ने बताया शुभम भाटकर ने कि दैट अमन यूज्ड टू राइट स्टफ अबाउट द मॉडर्न मेडिसिन तो फिर मैं दोनों मॉडर्न मेडिसिन का डिबेट कैसे कराऊंगा
Hey, I'll make it easy for you. Fuck modern medicine. Fuck evidence-based medicine. I'm on Team Ayurveda now. Do something. And dude, hey, all you Ayurvedic doctors, thank me, okay? Thank me and feel special that I'm on your team. The, some of the stuff which you guys practice, okay, now everyone's going to hate me. The Ayurvedic doctors are going to hate me. My mom and dad are also going to hate me for this. So no problem. Thank me, Ayurveda, because your representative went running and I showed up. And I am going to represent Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is going to shine because I'm here. Simple. Okay? And call Abby Phillips also. I'm pretty sure he's awake and watching this. But yeah, no problem. So what do we do? Okay, so what you've established what? That a meta-analysis is nothing special, okay? It isn't. Um, just because research was published 10 years ago or 50 years ago does not mean it's irrelevant, does not mean newer research is necessarily better. Man, undergrad students always have pressure. Grad students always have pressure to publish research. Okay, just because research is published doesn't make you a star, man. You think I keep referencing to the papers which I publish? I'm like, yeah, I published them. I look back at some of the stuff I published and I'm like, oh man, I was kind of a little desperate to publish that. Should have published it better. Okay, so yeah, that sort of stuff happens, okay, in the scientific community. So I guess what we can do now is we can touch on
Before
Chandra.
before we move ahead, let me just put this point. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, what you're trying to communicate is नया study is not better. पुराने वाले को discard नहीं करना है. At the same time, if something is new and it's not a part of a bigger picture, it doesn't mean that you would not look at it individually, right?
Exactly, and it does not just apply to something which is new. Just because we have a meta-analysis does not mean we put it right on top. It's simple, man. For example, take low carb versus high carb diets. Okay, we've got, let's say, a meta-analysis on low versus high carb, and then Kevin Hall comes up with these two beautiful studies, man. Are you really going to say that meta-analysis is better? And can't you just look at each study on a case-by-case basis? And I'm not trying to make a case for Chandrasekhar here. Okay, a lot of people will think, oh, I've latched on to Chandrasekhar. No, man. No, Chandrasekhar is one piece of the puzzle, but it's a bloody important piece which you just can't kick aside. And by the end of this live session, I'll show you why Chandrasekhar is so important. Just like every other study on ashwagandha is important. Every study is relevant. We look at each study individually, and then we formulate a conclusion or a summary of the evidence that we have on ashwagandha. And listen, man, anyone who says that there's not enough evidence for ashwagandha, I don't know what they're smoking, man. I really don't know what they're doing in life. If you say that there's not enough evidence to support the use of ashwagandha, my goodness, that's a bias, and I'll prove it. By the time we are done, you'll know why. Okay, so where do we begin, man? There are other foundational things which I want to establish before I touch on Chandrasekhar, ashwagandha, and other research on ashwagandha. We can also touch on the back and forth which Abby and I had. How do you want to start? Do you want to start with Chandrasekhar?
Maybe you can just start with the paper and later you can just touch on the whatever conversation you had with him.
Any questions? Do we have to touch on anything before that?
No, I don't see any questions for now.
All right, man.
Someone has a question. Just give me a second. So he's referring to the Bazin study you mentioned, the one where the natty individuals who trained gained less muscle mass than individual who were on this testosterone but didn't train at all and gained more muscle mass compared to the natty individuals.
Yeah, that's what Bhajan showed.
Mhm.
That's why as soon as he showed that, the entire community was like, "Oh man, we need to take this testosterone seriously." Okay, so yeah, um, Bhajan's done some great work, man. As has Chandrasekhar. Okay,
Okay, so
so
okay, printed.
printed it out, man. Why not? It's a good paper, and I don't know Chandrasekhar. Heck, I've even been accused, man, of having an agenda. If you must have read that. Go read the comments.
I read the comments, but I don't remember the agenda. I remember something on those lines. I remember something.
I've I was Hey man, one more thing, okay? I don't make assumptions about anyone. When I set out to debate someone, very few assumptions I make. Okay. I do sense things, okay? Like I know when someone's a little fearful of stepping foot in a live setting. I sense that. But I will never assume that someone does not know how to read a paper. Okay. Like towards the end of that, I was like, man, I'm not really feeling insulted or humiliated because I don't care about respect to it. But if you're going to assume that I don't know how to read a paper, my goodness, man, why would you want to assume something like that? So that's one thing. And now, if you're going to assume that I work for what? Um, the the company which makes the KSM 66 extract, or what? I work for Muscle Blaze and they have a KSM 66 formulation. What are you assuming? That I have some agenda here? I'm supporting ashwagandha here. That's why I have an agenda. Man, these type of conspiracy theories and these agenda, people who latch onto these agendas, this is what I see the pseudoscience community do all the time when the pharmaceutical industry comes up with something. They're like, oh, there must be some hidden agenda. Oh, they came up with a vaccine, hidden agenda. We can talk about that. But you need to have evidence for that, man. If you think I have some vested interest in this and someone's paying me, why would you assume something like that? I have no idea. I'll tell you something, man. The supplement companies I work for, or rather used to work for, if all of them fucking hated me, dude. They're like, this guy's too loud, man. And he says whatever's on his mind, and he's a problem. I was getting paid, and I was a problem child too. So what else, dude? And towards the end of this, I'll make just remind me when we are done. There are two important points I want to make. We'll conclude with that. But we can start with Chandrasekhar.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have it in front of you, Aman? I
I have it. मेरे को एक बार मेरा ना ये लैपटॉप बार बार बंद हो रहा है बैटरी
Yeah,
से
invite
वो
anyone. It's freely available the full text. So just pull it out, man.
yeah full text is front of me but ये थोड़ा
Okay.
लैपटॉप बीच में बंद होगा तो I will let you know. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go through it. But anytime someone wants to stop me, if they have a question, they want to cross question me, please feel free to do so. I also feel this is um, a good practice paper for someone who's um, attempting to get familiar with reading research. It's pretty straightforward paper, man. A very straightforward randomized control trial.
So we
Um,
will end up learning something today, how to read a paper.
yeah, and another thing, okay, how to read a scientific paper? Like Abby made it sound like, oh, you need to learn how to read between the lines. There's nothing like that, okay. It's a paper, it's a scientific paper. You read, if you don't know how to read a paper, if you take multiple papers and just continue reading them over and over again, just by virtue of familiarity and practice, you'll become better at it. When I first started reading a paper, the first paper I read, I was a little hectic, man. I just kept reading over and over again. You think I first pulled out Trisha Greenhall's book and opened it and said, okay, first I'll learn how to read a paper, I'll read that book and then I'll read a paper. No, man. I hate doing that stuff. I get straight to the point. I'm like, cool, I can read anything. So I pulled out a paper and I started reading it. And over the course of these last 8 years or so, I've read multiple papers, man. I'm bloody good at it too. The best at it. Better than the best. I'll show you, Abby Phillips. You think I don't know how to read between the lines? Let's talk about it, man. Research methodology, statistics, no problem. Come live and we can discuss those things. No problem. So, okay. So, a prospective randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study of safety and efficacy of a high concentration full spectrum extract of ashwagandha root in reducing stress and anxiety in adults. Okay. I think we can skip the abstract, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's an introduction to which we can skim through very quickly. But I just
Yeah, if you can just maybe if you can read the context, that would give people an idea about a few things.
if I can read the
Context. In this particular paper, you will see this context tab.
context. Yeah, fine.
Uh,
Stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension which can lead to underperformance and adverse clinical conditions. Adaptogens are herbs that help in combating stress. Ayurvedic classical texts, ashwagandha is a safe and effective adaptogen. So they've tried to define stress over here. And they mentioned that there is a class of compounds known as adaptogens, which help you adapt to stress. And ashwagandha is characterized as an adaptogen, which has been repeatedly demonstrated as safe and effective for use. That's it. That's the context here.
yeah.
Okay. We'll touch on Abby's criticisms also because he felt that okay, stress wasn't well defined here. Hey, we'll touch on that. Hey, Abby, we need to read between the lines, and when you read between the lines, you'll realize that stress was very well defined here. So, all right. A prospective randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study. Do people get what that means? You know, because sometimes when you read the title, you're like, ah, fuck, ouch, I don't want to read this shit. What the fuck is this, man? Prospective randomized double-blind placebo-controlled. You've lost more 90% of the fitter population is gone. Fitter's like, I'm out. Sorry. Jitendra Choksi like, I'm closing this. This is too much, man. I'll write my own study. Okay. So, um, yeah. Prospective is something which you study. It's like, so if you want to know what prospective is, and here's another great way of reading a paper, okay? If you don't know anything, if you read something like prospective, randomized, double-blind, just Google it, okay? Okay, there are prospective studies and then there are retrospective studies. Retrospective are more like ad hoc studies. So we look at the past. So you see like, let's say a population. For example, we'll see, man, I want to use this example. It's a little mean, but I'm mean, man. Who cares? For example, we'll look at the fitter community, the group, okay? And we'll be like, man, these people are so fucking stupid, man. How did these coaches become so stupid? Okay, how did they become so stupid? Then we start digging into their past. So we go back. We are in 2021. Okay, when did Figure start? Oh, it started in 2015. Oh, this stupid guy started it. Jitendra Choksi. No wonder. They have a stupid leader. That's why all of them are stupid. So it's retrospective. We see a sample, we see a population, a cohort, and we're like, man, these people are stupid. How did they become stupid? Let's go backwards in time. Okay, so that's retrospective. Now in retrospect, we know that Twitter is a stupid company. And don't worry, man. I'm here to save you all, okay? So all these Twitter coaches who are watching this, hey, hit me up, okay? I'll take care of you all, okay? Hey, and Jussie, come here, buddy. I haven't pet you in a while, buddy. Come here. You saw me chasing around in a stupid Mercedes. I'm drifting off on tangents now. But on the other hand, a prospective study is like, okay, we take these stupid people, coaches from fitter and we put them in a better environment, which we think is going to be a better environment so that they become smarter. So all these fitter coaches who've been unfortunately um, baptized by Jitendra Choksi and they caught on to the Menno Henselmans and Mike Israel gospel and they think they are evidence-based. Hey, it's time to unlearn, guys. So it's time to join the Aman Duggal University. Okay? Because you guys are my potential prospects. That's what a prospective study is. That when we take this stupid population and we take them and we put them in a better environment, solo baby, um, I can hope that they become smarter. And I don't believe in hope, man. I know you'll become smarter. So how much ever you paid Menno Henselmans, double that, triple that, 7 times that, and pay that to me. I'll make you all smarter, okay? All you fitter, stupid fitter coaches, join me, okay? And pay me, okay? So yeah, did you get, okay, prospective is basically, like in this study, they took people and they took a placebo group and a treatment group and then they observed what happens to them. Okay? Whereas in a retrospective studies, you go backwards. Cool.
Yep.
So that should show you that a prospective study is generally better because you're able to control some variables and study what is happening in real time. Whereas when you go in the past tends to get a little muddy. Okay, and you tend to get your biases tend to creep in. Some data points are lost in that process. Randomize is simple, man. You just randomly take subjects, you assign them to a placebo group, so a treatment and a non-treatment group. Let's make it that simple, okay? Randomly take people, randomly assign them to ashwagandha, not ashwagandha. Simple. Double blind means no one knows who's taking what, okay? So the researchers don't know who gets the ashwagandha, and the subjects also don't know who gets the ashwagandha. So the participants are blinded and the researchers are also blinded. So you don't want that researcher bias creeping. Placebo control means that when you give someone an ashwagandha pill, it should look exactly like the placebo pill. Okay? So for example, hey, this is ashwagandha, this is placebo. They're identical. So when the participants go home with their box of pills, no one will really know the difference between an ashwagandha pill and a placebo pill. Okay, so yeah, I should have defined what a placebo is first. So placebo is basically a sham treatment. Okay, it's supposed to do something, but it doesn't really do anything. Okay, that's what a placebo is. Okay. Um, and to assess the safety and efficacy of a high concentration full spectrum extract of ashwagandha root. Now, why do they say root? Because for the plant, ashwagandha plant, Withania somnifera, it has a root, it has leaves. It's been demonstrated that the root is what has the active constituents, which have health benefits. The leaf kind of doesn't have much. So whatever we see are root extracts, and this is something again which Abby Phillips needs to know, because he was asking, right? It's the whole plant, like what part of the plant?
But
It's the ashwagandha.
you actually specified the part of plant in the
I,
line.
I specified one of the constituents. I specified withanolides.
Mhm.
Okay, withanolides are one of several constituents which are there, and we believe that it's the withanolides which uh, which which promote all these health benefits. There are some alkaloids, there are some lactones, saponins. There's a lot of stuff which is there in the root, but we believe it's the withanolides which actually are able to improve the health outcome. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Sven, are you going to be here for a while? Just let me know when you're taking over. I just wanted to check on Sven because he's waiting. I was wondering if he's waiting for me to finish.
No problem.
So, because there's no euro today, so we are like, what to do now? Okay, so a full spectrum extract of ashwagandha root in reducing stress and anxiety in adults. I want to touch on this, okay, man. Stress and anxiety are huge. They're massive, okay. Aman, if you work with people, you know, man, you take a stressed client and someone who's like a jolly client, you can kind of predict in advance what's going to happen. Stress
Right.
is huge, man, and anxiety. I'm talking about any form of an anxiety disorder. I hate classifying anxiety as a generalized anxiety disorder. Like you have to reach a threshold. Hey man, it's a spectrum, okay? You can be less anxious, then the anxiety can start creeping upwards, and man, it can skyrocket like that. Okay, I've had I've had instances in the past where I've just gone from feeling okay, panic attack. Okay, it happens, man. And unfortunately, given the data or the research which we have on remedies for psychological or psychiatric disorders, we aren't too sure about a lot of pharmaceutical remedies which are out there. It's a reality. See, I've used an SNRI and it's worked beautifully. I've used a benzodiazepine and oh man, I can't tell you how much I love those benzodiazepines. I don't touch them anymore because I got addicted to them. But
You
man,
mentioned it in one of the lives
yeah,
when you spoke about depression. Yeah.
when I spoke about my depression and anxiety. But the reality is, for a lot of people, these drugs don't work. I don't know if you know people who've tried antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication. Sometimes there's a little trial and error which is involved. Sometimes there are nightmare stories of someone taking Prozac and just feeling terrible after that, worse than
I know
what,
someone close who went through this.
yeah. And it's a reality, it happens all the time, which is why we see a lot of times people are scared of using antidepressant medication, anti-anxiety medication, because they have a friend or a relative who had a terrible experience with it. Sometimes there's a getting used to phase also. You kind of start using the medication, and initially you see like you start feeling worse before you start feeling better. And we still don't know how they work, man. There's the serotonin hypothesis. It's for the most part just an hypothesis. And the reality is a lot of people don't want to flirt with those medicines. There is still a debate amongst the medical community as to the safety and efficacy of some of these medicines, as is with a lot of instances, but especially with psychiatric disorders. I see more of a back and forth. Okay, I'm no expert. Okay, I'll take a step back and I'll say I'm not a psychiatrist. Okay, I just float around and I see what's kind of happening. So, but here's the reality. Okay, if you find someone who's stressed, who's anxious, okay, you can ask them to exercise, eat better. Okay, like for example, someone who's obese, what do they have to do? They have to kind of eat less and move more. Okay, in theory. In practice, it's a lot more complicated, right? So likewise, when you have someone who's incredibly stressed and anxious, you want them to um, take take active measures to help alleviate some of that stress and anxiety they're experiencing. Look at their life, okay? Look at their surroundings, their social support system, their environment. Man, and sometimes it takes a while before you can actually change that, right? Sometimes you're just in a stressed environment. What are you going to do? You can't get out of it.
Sometimes you can do nothing about it. I mean, I've seen people in the environment where no matter तुम कितना precaution ले रहे हो जो भी कर रहे हो but the environment is such that you cannot do anything about it. Even
You
if you
cannot.
feel better, there is something which is going to happen and you're stressed again. You're back into the hole.
Yeah, we can use so many examples, man. Abusive relationships. We can think about dangerous neighborhoods. Okay, like if you're in a locality which is just It is what it is. That's stressful. Uncertainty about the future. If COVID, man, took away so much in the way of occupation, daily wage earners, think about them. That's stress and anxiety promoting. Now, what do you expect them to do? Okay? Do you expect them to eat better, exercise? Sometimes anxiety is just paralyzing, man. When I was anxious as fuck, I could, I didn't want, I had no appetite, and I couldn't exercise, man. I was like this. Um, what else can you do? You can ask them to seek help. Medical help is not cheap, man. A lot of times, some of them, I believe the SNRI which I was using, that's when the vaccine, it's not cheap. It's not something which everyone can afford. It was great, okay. It worked really well for me, and I did not have any withdrawal symptoms. Also, it's a new generation drug, I believe. So it worked really well, but it's not something which is within which anyone would feel comfortable spending money on. And not to mention the stigma, man, which is attached to using antidepressants. And most people don't even know what to do. Because when they go to their families, they'll be like, yeah, just snap out of it. What are you, kid or something? Why are you stressing? Okay. So this is a reality, okay. However, another reality is people are open to trying more traditional remedies. If
Yeah.
you give some, if you give someone a glass of milk before sleeping and you're like, hey, this may help you, they'll be like, oh, it's just milk. Okay, fine. And if they go to their Ayurvedic doctor and he's like, yo, man, take some ashwagandha. You won't think twice. It's ashwagandha, cool, I'll take it.
And this is also a part of social support system. I mean, think of your parents. When you go to them कि अरे मेरे को ये दवाई लेना है, they would be like तेरे को दवाई क्यों लेना है? Now at the same time तुम बोलोगे आयुर्वेदिक मेरे को अश्वगंधा लेना है, they are like okay, take it.
Yeah, take it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Take it. And I get happy, okay? I get it that there are Ayurvedic remedies, formulations, and blends which are problematic. But they are not problematic because of the active constituent which is present in those Ayurvedic remedies. They are problematic because of the processing and the refinement techniques which were used to come up with that end product. Okay, you see how Ayurvedic doctors function, man. They'll give you like a little paper bag or a plastic bag, and they'll be like, "Yo, this is your powder. What the fuck is this, man? It has no label, nothing. Yo, just fucking put this in your mouth." Oh, just recently, man, I had a client sign up a month ago. I'm like looking at his blood work, thinking, dude, this guy looks fine to me. His metals are all over the place, man. Where is he getting this metal toxicity from? I'm asking him, dude, I do eat a lot of seafood. Mercury, cadmium is all over the place, arsenic's all over the place. What the fuck is happening? It's like, no, I'm scratching my head thinking, what is wrong with this guy, man? Why does he have this? Is it the water? What is it? And then he's like, hey, man, I forgot to tell you, man. I've been taking this Ayurvedic remedy for a long, long time. I'm like, tell me more about it. And that same traditional thing where he goes to a doctor, he gives him a powder, and you're like, I'm like, stop taking that. Um, and it's happened so many times with my clients. They stop taking that, they get fresh blood work done, and now they don't display those elevated biomarkers anymore. So yeah, when Abby says that there are some formulations which are dangerous, they are dangerous, man, and they need to be looked into and they need to be grilled. Just like any other supplement can be dangerous, just like whey protein can be dangerous. If whey protein isn't processed well, and if some manufacturer thinks like, throw in a little D-ball, why not? We have it all the time. It
Yeah,
happens
we do.
in the north all the fucking time. Ultimate Nutrition, Dimetized Nutrition, Optimum Nutrition, all the best if you're using those three brands, okay? Ultimate, Optimum, and Dimetized. that's not dimetized, that's dynaball ties, okay? That's what it is. In India, man, muscle tech products, they're all adulterated, man, most of them. But that's not, you can't look at those products, you can't open a jar of Optimum Nutrition and say, oh my God, whey protein is bad. No, it's not whey protein which is bad. It's these buggers who made this whey protein. They are problematic. Okay, and we see this, man. Okay, liver toxicity. When you use a good extract of ashwagandha, we have studies which show that there's no liver toxicity. There are no adverse effects of taking ashwagandha over a prolonged period of time. So why are you just looking at these herbal remedies? Okay, these blends, poorly made blends, and then deducing that, oh, it is the ashwagandha extract which is the problem. No, it's the way it's made which is the problem. If you're cool with having whey protein, he said it right. He's cool with whey protein. Heck, he's even cool with curcumin. And hey, Abby, if you're good with curcumin and you've been able to recognize that curcumin has some anti-inflammatory properties, let me tell you something. Ashwagandha is a lot more studied than curcumin is. Okay, it's the most studied Ayurvedic remedy. Okay, so come on, these are like, red flags right there, where he's like a little more familiar with curcumin. Maybe a friend or two must have shared a little bit about curcumin. Oh, look at this study, Abby. It fits your perfect study model. Oh, and Abby's like, yeah, anti-inflammatory. Cool. We'll give a thumbs up to curcumin. But he's just ignorant about all the awesome research which is there on ashwagandha, which is a lot more than what we have on curcumin. Right. So again, we've drifted off on a tangent, but it's an important one, right? The reason we drifted off on this tangent is, man, if someone is feeling stressed and anxious and they can't do anything about it, their cortisol levels are soaring through the roof. And if you tell them, man, here's a gift, okay? Some nice KSM 66 ashwagandha. Take it. And he or she feels better. My goodness gracious me, man. I'm not just I'm this is not me. um, this is not a hypothetical situation. This happens all the time. Aman, do you know why I don't use ashwagandha?
No, I'm not sure.
It fucking chills me out, man. I become way too chill. And I don't like being so chill. I like being a little anxious. Because that anxiety then drives me towards, doing stuff. We have case reports wherein ashwagandha kills anxiety so much, to such a significant degree, that the anxiety to even do day-to-day activities, even that goes away. Like, people have like this, they go so chill after taking ashwagandha. Now these are case reports. I'm not making a case based on these case reports for ashwagandha, but yeah, there you'll find that people who kind of take a little extra ashwagandha, or for some people ashwagandha works so well, it calms them the fuck down, man, and then they're like, life is good, I'm so chill. I don't even want to brush my teeth then. That sort of a chill.
I
So
have a client. I recently have a client. She has been using it from very long, and she has a lot of issues with anxiety and feeling that way. But it kind of helps her a lot. I mean, she takes it before sleeping, and she's like, it helps me a lot. And I have never stopped her from taking it since she's taking it from very long, and it's helping. So
yeah,
I'm like, yeah,
yeah, man. And we're only talking stress and anxiety right now. There's so
yeah.
much other stuff which ashwagandha has been tested for. Okay, so come on, man. Hey, I'll say it, man. If you are not familiar with the research on ashwagandha, and listen, I'm saying this now, but I'll prove it later. If you are not familiar with the research on ashwagandha, and you do not understand how profound an effect ashwagandha can have on someone's life, and you dismiss it because you have this strong pseudo allegiance to evidence based medicine, and you want to kind of shine this hyper skepticism towards anything which seems like, oh, it's not pharmaceutical in nature, that sort of a bias. If you have that strong of a bias, man, that's malpractice. That that um, that heightened skepticism which you're displaying towards ashwagandha, that's not right, man. You need to start displaying that heightened skepticism then towards SSRIs also, man. Because I'll touch on the methodology. A lot of the methodology which has been used in Chandrasekhar, the methodology is very similar to how you test an SSRI or an SNRI or a benzodiazepine. How else are you going to test for the efficacy of an SSRI or an SNRI. There are some subjective measures which you have to use. There are some questions which you have to ask. We touch on the methodology, man. But man, if you are dismissing or if you're just simply ignorant about the overwhelming evidence which is there in support of ashwagandha, don't speak about it. Because if you're going to say don't use ashwagandha, that's malpractice.
So someone is
Okay.
asking, can you please tell me the brand name of ashwagandha and form?
So if you want to use ashwagandha, use the KSM 66 extract. There are many brands which make it. I'd say you can try True Basics, which is a health card subsidiary. But any KSM 66 extract, any KSM 66 ashwagandha, man. Any brand which sells a KSM 66 extract, just use it. Try it out. They usually come in 600 milligram formulation, so 600 mg a pill. You can start that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
Not for now. Someone said, thank you for this session.
Hey, we've not even started. We're only warming up.
Hey, I have a question. If you can quickly touch on what is so special about KSM 66?
Okay. Now, see, man, there is nothing overly special, which I think about how it's prepared. Okay, it's like most of the research which show a profound effect for ashwagandha's use is on the KSM 66 extract. We have studies on ashwagandha, which kind of show like, it doesn't really do much, but they're not on the KSM 66 extract. Now, here's why it's important. It's important because we just discussed, right? There's this ashwagandha root, and we are extracting some active constituents from that root. It's not ashwagandha which works, it's what is there inside ashwagandha which works. So we need to get what is inside, standardize it, study it, and then put it in a pill. Okay, so I believe I think they actually compared two forms of ashwagandha. Now, this is off the top of my head, I may be wrong about this. Either they're two separate studies or they did this in the same study, where they took a group and they gave them like a standard ashwagandha powder. I think they gave them about 4 or 5 grams of that ashwagandha powder. And they compared them to a well-refined ashwagandha extract. And they only gave them about 600 milligrams of that extract. They found that the 600 milligrams worked a lot better than the 5,000 milligrams of that powder, which clearly shows that, okay, you need to like process this thing. You can't just be like, oh, here's ashwagandha root, here's the powder, have it. That's when we that's when we run into problems. Then toxicity and all of that comes in. But you can take that root, put it through a refinery, okay, get rid of all that gibberish which you don't need, and just get those active constituents which we do need, make sure it's safe, test it well, and put it in a pill. Done. That's KSM 66.
There are other forms too, right? Other than this KSM 66, there are other forms too, right?
There are other forms which kind of have these, which standardize extracts. But man, given the overwhelming evidence in favor of KSM 66, it's a little difficult to recommend any other extract. Like, I totally think that any other company which is making an extract, they should see similar benefits. But because I believe the name of the company is Ixorial, okay, who's come up with KSM 66. Because they've just grabbed ashwagandha by the horn and they've published so much research, it's very difficult to recommend anything outside of KSM 66 right now. It's a reality, man. It's like pharmaceutical companies do this all the time. They have their formulation, they patent it, and they're like, yeah, and we are going to publish all these studies on it because we've got the funds. It's a reality. What are you going to start fighting vaccines now? Because Pfizer funded the vaccine, so now we're not going to take Pfizer. There may be other reasons. Hey, we'll touch on COVID also, by the way. I have some truly interesting gossip on COVID, which we'll touch on in the future.
Amreen
But
ma'am is asking Aman Bindra, where is the money? I don't have the money. Aman Duggal is starting the university. He will have a lot of money. So
I
you should ask him.
Oh, hello, dude. I still don't have. I don't even have my website. Okay, I'm struggling with my website here. Nutrition Codes is live, buddy. You have the money. Look, this is free education. Yeah. Sven Montero is over here. He's thinking, what are these guys talking about? Ashwagandha. Why doesn't he's like, dude, you're leaving football right now and you're leaving training to talk about Ashwagandha. Seriously? But cool. Get back. Uh,
Yeah.
Amreen, ma'am, how's it going? I don't you worry, okay? We'll take Aman Bindra's money. Yeah. All right. Anyway, man, a lot of tangents, important ones though. So,
Someone has a question which is not related to what you're talking about. Maybe if you want to touch on it. He,
touch on it,
uh,
man. We
yeah.
freestyle
So
this.
he's asking, how is Zomato selling omega-3 supplements in such a cheap price?
I don't know and I don't care. Okay. All I care about, that's all I'll say. Okay. I care about what Zomato does for me. I don't care about anything else. Simple. Okay. That's it. Um, no comment. That's what I should have said. Okay. So, all right. So, let's go. I guess Chandrasekhar, 2012.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the introduction, obviously. Like, I feel I'll skim through it with you, but
Yeah.
the introduction is basically what ashwagandha is. Okay. They talk about what adaptogens are. Okay. Uh, Ashwagandha, botanically known as Withania somnifera, is a member. Okay. There's some background literature. Being the most commonly used and extensively studied adaptogen, a large volume of literature is available for Withania somnifera. Okay, this herb has been studied as an adaptogenic antioxidant, anti-cancer, anxiolytic, antidepressant, cardioprotective, thyroid modulating, immunomodulating, antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, cognitive enhancing, and hematopoietic agent. Wow, man. English. Ashwagandha contains a range of constituents like withanolides, cetonophen, and other alkaloids that are pharmacologically and medicinally important. Sorry, man, excuse my language. I'm good with my English, but there are some things which just don't deserve to be pronounced. Um, okay, these chemicals protect cells from oxidative damage and disease results from, okay, fine, whatever. So I'm just skimming through the introduction
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The high concentration full spectrum ashwagandha root extract used in the study is the KSM 66 ashwagandha extract provided by Axorial Biomed, Hyderabad, India. Okay, so it's a KSM 66. The extract is drawn only from the roots of the ashwagandha plant using no other parts like leaves. It is standardized to withanolide content of at least 5% as measured by HPLC. It is produced by a unique extraction process based on the principles of green chemistry without using alcohol or any. Okay, done introduction. If anyone has
Yeah.
questions on the introduction, let me know. Okay, and here's something I'd like to share. Okay, if you want to read a paper, just open the method section, man. Just start there. Okay, like introduction, discussion, those are things which are largely literacy related. Okay, there's not much which I want to derive from learning that. So if you really want to get good at reading papers, get good at the methodology. Okay, okay, materials and methods. This was a single-centered, prospective, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial primarily to evaluate the efficacy of a high-concentration, full-spectrum ashwagandha root extract in reducing stress and anxiety. Okay, a total of 64 subjects complaining of mental stress were enrolled into the study for a duration of 60 days. So 64 people, 60 days. Okay, KSM 66. The study was conducted in accordance with the Indian Council for Medical Research Guidelines for Research in Humans and the Declaration of the Helsinki and was approved by the Institutional Review Committee at Asha Hospital in Hyderabad, India. Look up these guidelines, okay? These guidelines are important. Look them up. That's all I'll say about that. Let's move on to the participants. Subjects were enrolled into the study if they met the following inclusion criteria. So they were between 18 and 54 years of age. Okay, you're following along, right, Aman?
Yeah, I
18
am.
to 54.
Yeah.
Free of psychiatric conditions other than stress. Okay. Have a score less than 15 on the WHO 5 well-being index and a score of at least 14 on the PSS, which is the perceived stress scale. And they could read and write English. And here's something which you need to know about the WHO 5 well-being index. Lower scores correspond to higher levels of stress. Okay, so on the WHO 5, the lower the score, the higher the stress. Just remember that. Okay, so here's the first relevant point. I believe Abby said that stress, chronic stress wasn't defined. It was.
Yeah.
Okay, they chose participants who had a score less than 15 on the WHO 5 and at least 14 on the perceived stress scale. Now we'll touch on why the perceived stress scale was used and the relevance of the perceived stress scale and the WHO 5 and the relevance of these scales, because Abby's already thinking, if he's watching this right now, thinking, oh, there's no tangible outcome here. These are questionnaires. Hey, wait, slow down, man. So let's move on. Subjects are excluded if they met any of the following exclusion criteria. They're suffering from any, if they're suffering from any chronic physical, hormonal, or psychiatric illness, they're using certain hormonal birth control measures, they're currently on any medication on a regular basis, if they are currently taking any herbal preparations or formulations containing ashwagandha, ginseng, ginkgo biloba, brahmi, or related herbs, they were pregnant or lactating, if they had substance dependence, or if they had abnormal laboratory or ECG findings. Okay, so they excluded certain people as well. Now we can come back to this inclusion exclusion criteria and why this is so important. But let's move on to the intervention. So far so good, right?
Yeah.
The recruitment process started with a pre-screening meeting, which offered an introductory lecture on stress and was part of a set of stress management talks. Okay, so they had a meeting, they organized a talk, they wanted to kind of educate everyone. The meeting was attended by participants from a wide cross-section of the population, which included doctors, students, self-employed persons, executive, employees of IT firms. Okay, so yeah, you got the IT population, you got some doctors, you got self-employed, which means we got businessmen, entrepreneurs. Okay, so you can see now what the demographic consisted of and why why these people related with stress. Okay, if you're an IT professional, if you're a doctor, if you're an entrepreneur, okay, stressful jobs. Unless you're like me. Okay, no, sorry. I get pokey. Okay, these subpopulations work under stress and perceive themselves as being under stress. Okay, makes sense. The purpose of the study was explained to attendees at the pre-screening meetings, who were then invited to be part of the study. Those who volunteered were given the WHO 5. Okay, so they were assessed on the WHO 5 well-being index. They reported high stress levels as measured by the PSS, the perceived stress scale, and who are interested in further participation were asked to visit the research site for further evaluation. All right. So what happens on day 0? Okay, so they get all of these people, they kind of have a meeting, they have a talk, they educate them. Okay, and then they conduct these tests. Okay, the WHO 5 and the perceived stress scale. They figure out, okay, whether these people truly qualify as being stressed individuals, which qualify to be part of the study. So now what happens on day 0 at the research site? After obtaining written consent from the subjects, their medical history was recorded, lab assessments were carried out, each subject was then assessed on the PSS. Now this is cool. A qualified psychiatrist performed a clinical psychiatric examination on the subjects to check for the primary psychiatric disorders, because the psychiatric disorders because the clinical trial protocol sought to exclude subjects with psychiatric disorders. Subjects with a PSS score of at least 14 were enrolled into the study. So they went the extra mile. Okay, they didn't just leave it to the subjects to do the PSS thing themselves. They had a psychiatrist on board who assessed these subjects, and they were like just to ensure that they were not suffering from any psychiatric disorder. So there was a psychiatrist on board as well. They went the extra mile a little bit. Now here's another cool thing they did. On day 0, serum cortisol levels were measured in the morning. Great. Now we've got a biomarker here. Cool. Okay. The subjects were also administered 3 questionnaires. So again, the PSS showed up. Then they had the depression, anxiety, stress scale, which is the DASS, and the 28-item version of the general health questionnaire, referred to as the GHQ-28. After assessing the screening parameters, each subject was randomly assigned to either the study drug treatment group or the placebo control group. Okay, with a randomization ratio 1:1. Okay, so evenly distributed using a computer-generated randomization scheme, which is even more awesome because the computer kind of randomly generates it. So you kind of take away that human element.
Yeah.
Okay. Subjects were provided a blinded kit containing capsules in a quantity adequate for the entire duration of the study. Okay, so they were provided a kit. Subjects were instructed to consume 1 capsule 2 times a day after food with a glass of plain water for 60 days. The study drug treatment group was given capsules, each containing 300 milligrams of high concentration full spectrum ashwagandha root extract. So they were basically instructed to consume 600 milligrams a day in 2 doses.
300, 300.
300.
Yeah.
Henceforth, this group will be referred to as the ashwagandha. The placebo control group was given capsules containing a neutral substance. It's usually like glucose, sugar, something of that sort. There's a little controversy on that. I'll touch on that in the future some other time.
Okay, I kind of
You got it,
got
right?
it. Yeah.
The capsules in the 2 groups were of identical size and form. So cool, okay? Now you can't distinguish. It's childish stuff. This always happens, okay? To verify treatment compliance and to record any adverse events, a follow-up telephone call was made on day 15, day 30, and day 45. After each telephone call, the findings were recorded in a case report form. On day 60, final measurements of serum cortisol and the stress scale responses were performed. Data on safety and adverse effects of the study drug were collected on day 60 also. So cool.
Now this was one of the argument from Dr. EB that the follow-up was done on telephone, the calls.
I'll address it right away.
Yeah.
How else do you want to follow up?
I'm thinking about it right now, and it makes sense to follow up on a phone call. I mean,
how else do you want to follow up? Okay, you know what? I'll make the argument for Dr. Abby. If you want these participants to stay in the hospital, stay inside a metabolic ward, that's what he's trying to say, right?
Yeah.
It's like the follow-up was done via telephone, so you kind of have to trust the participants a little bit. Of course, you have to trust them, man. Everyone doesn't have money for a metabolic ward study. Okay, I know for a fact that when it comes to research on medicines, man, hey, I'll give the pharmaceutical industry this. The research on medicine, like traditional medicine, which pharmaceutical companies manufacture, is insane, man. Okay, it's another level altogether. I'll give you that, okay, Dr. Abby. I'll give it to you. They've got the funds and they do a great job, man. Here's a fun stat, okay, which I have to double check. 1 out of every 5,000 medicines actually make the market. That's how much rigor is applied to medicine. Like not alternative medicine, but medicine as what we normally consume, prescription medicine. So yeah, there's a lot of rigor. There's a the studies are usually have a larger sample size. They can afford doing metabolic ward trials, and there's a lot more in the way of data we have on medicine, but not always. Not always. There are some remedies which are incredibly well established, okay, because there's just a plethora of research. But then there are also some evidence-based accepted treatments which hardly have anything in the way of evidence. But we just have to kind of resort to them because they are the best we currently have. And I would like to stick to stress and anxiety here because we're talking about stress and anxiety. The data on stress and anxiety and the pharmaceutical therapy, first line therapy, which is pharmaceutical therapy for stress and anxiety, it's not that great. I'll tell you, man, I was obsessed with finding out what I was consuming. When I was on the SNRI, I was like, man, I need to know what I'm consuming. And that's another stupid thing I did while I was bloody depressed and anxious. I'm reading all this research and I'm getting scared. Because I'm like, man, this research is dodgy. I'm reading side effects and I'm like, man, this really doesn't do anything. And that's the worst thing you can do, right? When you're seeking treatment, you're kind of, reminding yourself that this is either not going to do anything or it's going to fuck you up. So I left that. I quickly got on that and I was like, man, calm down, buddy. Just trust the doctor and use what he's a doctor for a reason. He's a psychiatrist for a reason. Okay. So,
I,
but
I, I have a question, Aman. I'm not sure how would this sound, but then when we are testing something on, let's say, stress, so does it make more sense to test it in a natural environment compared to a metabolic ward study? I mean, someone living a regular life at the same time you're testing them.
that's such a great point, man. Now I'm thinking, why didn't I think of that? So that's awesome. That's great because when you take someone and put them in a metabolic ward, and you're like,
Yep.
here, take this money, here, Netflix and chill. They're
Hmm.
like, man, I like this. I don't want to leave this metabolic ward. This is so cool, man. I'm getting paid. Man, I have butler service here. They're looking after my health. They're giving me this cool food and everything. Good stuff. I want to stay here. Okay. Wow. Now I have an admission to make. I thought about this ecological validity thing. Okay. I'll touch on the phone call and why that's relevant. But you enhance this point better, man. So props to you, Aman Bindra. That's an
Now
awesome
I am
point.
evidence based. Now I
You
will write
do
it in my bio.
Dude, you need to get on Team Ayurveda, man. We need KSM 66 needs to call you, buddy. They need to send you some KSM 66. Aman Bindra is going to become a KSM 66 sponsored athlete. But yeah, that's you want them to be in their environments and you want them to go to office and you want them to be in the stressful home environment or wherever they are
Yeah, I
to
use the term natural environment. That might not be right, but I mean, you get what I'm trying to
it's
communicate,
right.
right? Yeah, yeah.
It is their natural environment. That
Hmm.
stressful environment is what they are naturally exposed to.
Hmm.
So yeah, you want them to be there, not in a metabolic ward trial. Now, obviously, there are pros and cons of both, right? I get that. But man, this is an ecological validity question, okay? Let's for example take someone, okay? Let's talk ketogenic diets because this is nutrition codes. People are more familiar with nutrition and exercise related research. And we take someone, we take subjects, put them in a metabolic ward trial and prescribe them ketogenic diets, right? Now they don't have a choice, right? They're getting paid and all you're feeding them is chicken breast and broccoli. And they'll be like, man, I'm getting paid, fine, man, I'll have this. I'm not getting anything else now. Okay. So yeah, now you have someone who's following a ketogenic diet. That's great. That doesn't mean they're going to follow a ketogenic diet when they're outside of that metabolic ward. So when you want to see test real world outcomes, us as coaches, man, as
Hmm.
doctors, you have to ask the patient if he's taking the medicine. You're not going to, he's not going to come every day and you're not going to pop paracetamol. Hey, open your mouth, buddy. Here, catch this. It's not, that's not how it works, right? You're like, here, take some paracetamol, have it. And follow up on the phone call or report back to me after 15 days. And we know, man, especially when it comes to psychiatric treatment, a lot of patients don't take that treatment. We know that too. They lie. They're like, oh, I tried it. I got a little scared. I stopped. Or I'm taking it when they're not taking it. This is real world stuff which happens. I have caught my clients so many times, man. Hey, pro tip, okay? I'll give you a pro tip. Clients lie all the time. Clients are liars, man. Hey, clients, if you're watching me, all of you guys are liars, okay? I've had calls where they're like, come on, I'm following the diet and everything's going well. Well, I don't understand. My weight went up. I'm like, what? Are you stressed or something? No, everything's fine. I don't understand. I'm like, start thinking. You'll understand. And dude, I've had these conversations last for 20 minutes where till the 19th minute, they're holding on to their guns. No, Aman, no. I'm like, okay, let's think. What did you have yesterday? Okay, day before. What about, was there movie night? Oh, there was movie night. What did you have while watching the movie? Oh, fuck, I had popcorn. I think I had nachos also. Yeah.
Happens all the time. I mean, with my clients, sometimes they would report, "Oh, I'm not losing weight. I'm doing everything you asked me to." I tell them, "Let's do one thing for next 7 days. Whatever you eat, you will click a picture and share it on WhatsApp. You will send me your activity log, whatever you're doing. Next 7 days, they're losing weight." I'm like, "अभी ये कैसे हो रहा
Yeah. Awesome. So that happens all the time.
है?"
And dude, for me, it's a default thing. Okay. I'm like, listen, you send me everything. Whatever you're capable of sending, you send. So my WhatsApp is full of pictures and logs and this and that. But I'm not happy with all of that. I'm like, listen, that is what you sent me. You sneaky bugger. That is what you sent me. I know what you didn't send me. You tell me, okay? I'm not, because I'm going to heckle you. You think I'm going to you think you can fool me by saying that, oh, something magic is happening to you, you're someone special. No, you're not, man. You're not special, and there's no magic which is happening to you. You keep thinking. I'm telling you, man. I just heckle them, heckle them, heckle them, and then the truth will come out, and then they'll start crying. We did that. What to do, man? Sometimes
One,
I want to enjoy my food. I want to enjoy my chocolate. I'm like, then tell me. I'll put it for you.
one of my ex-client is like, feels like you guys are talking about me.
All you crybaby clients, okay? It's the truth. I heckle my clients all the time. I'm like, man, listen, if you want to be a crybaby, you can be a crybaby with me. That's fine. Just be honest with me, okay? These are the same clients, okay? Now, all these my clients are going to hate me, but fuck it. Who cares, man? Um, these are the same clients, okay? They'll be like, Aman, give us anything. Discipline. Okay, you can give me anything, man, and I'll follow it. I'm so motivated. Yes. And I'm like, that's because you just had some McDonald's a couple of hours ago. Of course you're motivated. Your stomach's nice and full, right? Wait till you start feeling hungry, buddy. You're not going to be that motivated. Okay. What's this? There's a bias, man. Projection bias, where you kind of project how you're feeling now to the future.
Yeah, right.
It works both ways. It's like when I was depressed, I'm like, oh no, man, I'm going to be depressed forever. I'm anxious. I'm going to be anxious forever. I'm fucked. Okay. Oh no, I'm poor now. I'm going to be poor forever. Okay. And it's the same thing with when you're feeling awesome, right? Oh fuck, I'm bulletproof and I'm going to be bulletproof forever. And that's when you start getting complacent, you start getting cocky, and then you start getting sloppy. So that's why it's important to have a support system which heckles you. Okay, I have a support system which grabs me by the collar when I get cocky, and they're like, "Fuck you, go and study." Okay, don't get too cocky and arrogant. Okay, you're and we get it. Okay, you're in a stupid industry and you know a thing or two about nutrition. But dude, as soon as you think you know everything, that's what happens. So um, yeah, but it's same clients. Okay, like
Moving up, maybe we should move forward from
yeah.
the follow-up calls thing. We are going to the coaching side of things.
Yeah. Hey. Clients, stop being crybabies, okay? And if you want to cry, tell me. Motivation. We're so motivated. Khanta motivated. Okay. So, um, yeah. Where are we? Okay.
We were talking about this thing, no?
Yeah.
Interventions. You were done
So
with
the
that.
telephone call,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
The telephone call. It's important, man, for a reason. Because how else are you going to follow up with them? Okay. It's a great way of following up. And at least they're following up, right? They're heckling them every 2 weeks. Day 15, day 30, day 45. Hey, you're still taking my pills, right? Okay, good. All right. That's a pretty straightforward intervention too. It's not like the you're asking the client to do too much, right? You're not. If this was like a nutritional study where you're like, okay, man, now you have to follow this diet, then I'd be like a little uneasy about the telephone call because I'm like, yeah, the client will tell you that they're following the keto diet or they're following the high carb diet, but they must be just eating their regular stuff because it's too much of a change. This is not that much of a change. You're like just asking them to pop a few pills and you educated them and you're telling them, man, it's just ashwagandha. Okay, it's a natural remedy. They're like, oh, cool, man. No problem. We'll take it. All right. So data collection and analysis.
It's
On day
done.
0 and day
Yeah.
60. Yeah. On day 0 and day 60, data were collected by physiological measures in a laboratory and by survey responses to a standard question. Additional data on compliance and adverse reactions were collected on day 15, 30, and 45 during the phone call. So they were pretty thorough, man. They they tested for serum cortisol on day 1 and day 60, and they even tested for adverse events and safety before after. They did quite a bit over here. Assay methodology. The efficacy of this ashwagandha root extract in reducing stress was assessed based on day 0 and day 60 levels of serum cortisol and the scores on the PSS, GHQ-28, and DASS questionnaires. Specifically, we compared the measures across the two groups on day 0 and across the two groups on day 60. We also compared the changes in measures over the 60 days across the two groups. This allowed us to assess the effect of the drug on various dimensions of stress. Pretty cool. The safety of the ashwagandha extract was assessed based on laboratory findings and incidence of adverse events. All adverse events reported by the subjects were recorded. Their potential relationship with the study drug was also evaluated. Okay, so what were the measures? They tested serum cortisol on day 0 and day 60, and they had these three scales, okay, which, which are like questionnaires, generally speaking, and they use these questionnaires slash scales to basically determine their change in perceived stress. Okay, so far so good.
Yeah.
Oh, statistical methods and analysis. So 64 subjects were enrolled. The subjects, 3 subjects were not compliant with the study protocol. So for efficacy analysis, only 61 subjects compliant with the protocol were included. That sounds fair. So the 3 who are not compliant, they dropped out somewhere in the study, just exclude them. But what is fair, for safety analysis, we considered all 64 subjects in the intent to treat population. So this is nice, okay? The intention to treat analysis, you consider all 64 subjects. So this makes things fair, like really fair. This consisted of all those subjects who took at least 1 dose of either the treatment drug or the placebo. So yeah, what qualifies you then in the intention to treat analysis? If you take even 1 dose of the placebo or the ashwagandha, cool, man. You're part of the study. At least for safety measures, we'll count you in, okay? If someone wants to know what an intention to treat analysis is, I can answer that towards the end, or I can button right now. If someone wants to know, that's a question which someone may have when they're reading this. Okay. Efficacy was evaluated based on both physiological and survey measures. So physiological, obviously the cortisol, and there was a survey. For each measure, we computed the difference across the two groups on day 0 and across the two groups on day 60. We performed a t-test to assess the statistical significance of this difference. T-test basic, okay. We also computed within each group the change in the measure over the 60 days. and measure the difference in these changes across the two groups. A t-test was used to assess the statistical significance of this difference. For robustness, we also use the man-Whitney test, which is a non-parametric test. All these assessments collectively allowed us to evaluate the effect of the drug on various dimensions of stress. Now you can touch on these statistical tests, t-test, basic, and they use a non-parametric test, the man-Whitney test. So they had these two statistical tests which they perform on the data. Okay. Results. Any questions so far?
Not for now. We only have 3-4 people watching anyway. So if anyone has a question, I will.
We are not heckling Jitendra Choksi, no. They are heckling
Yeah.
Abby Phillips. So who cares about, like a respectful back and forth? We want some masala, man. Okay. And people are sleeping now because, people pretend to read research and they link research, but as soon as they open the research paper, they're like, abstract, introduction, discussion, finished. That little methodology section, ignore. You know how I know that? Because I used to do that too.
जब मैंने थोड़ा बहुत स्टार्ट किया था पढ़ना, मैं भी सेम ही करता था। मैं तो ऊपर ऊपर का पढ़ लेते हैं यार, उसने बोला है यही चीज है।
Yeah. That guy said something. Okay, let me go cherry pick a paper. Oh yeah, this abstract looks nice. Here, take that. Yeah, look, my PubMed study
And
shows.
most of the times whenever people are posting these studies, maybe ये लोग उसी के ऊपर मार रहे हैं जिनको पता है ये खोल के पढ़ेगा नहीं। तो इसने रिसर्च पेपर डाल दिया, तो मैंने भी रिसर्च पेपर डाल दिया, मतलब मैं ठीक हो गया क्योंकि ये तो पढ़ने ही वाला नहीं है।
Exactly. People make assumptions, man. I'm telling you, given the assumptions that Abby Phillips made about me, he didn't think I'd sit there.
Amreen ma'am is taking revenge today.
Why can't I see the live chat? Wait, what is Amreen saying?
She's reacting to the live.
Oh, look at her go. Look at her go. Control yourself. What? Okay. Amreen ma'am OP. Amreen ma'am OP. Hey, what to do, man? Dude, you combine our followers, we still don't make the number of followers. She's just sending some love our way so that we can feel better about ourselves, right? We get it, okay? You're more popular, Omreen ma'am. Good on you. Hey, we heckle one person at a time. She heckles like 7 people at once, man. So yeah, whatever, man. We get it, okay? You're a stud, Omreen. We get that. Cool. Okay. So what? Move on to the results.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you're getting bored, the fun stuff is about to begin. Okay. Okay. Total of 64 subjects, 32 in each study group. Okay. Were included in the study, of which 64% were men, 36% were women. Okay. So we got this nice little table. So glance your eyes on table 1, Aman.
Yeah.
Dude, I just need to get a sip of water, man. My mouth is dry.
Sure.
Okay. Just glance table 1. I'll just be back in one minute. I'm telling you. All right, Team Red, baby. Haters are going to say Zomato gifted me the glass. Water never tasted so good. Okay. Man, this is why you should script stuff, because if you don't script stuff, it goes on forever. Life. Anyway, results, okay?
Yeah.
So, now check this out. Okay? I like how they've made these tables. So first, see, they got these two Um, this is the ashwagandha group, this is the placebo group. And look how well everything's randomized, okay? So, the number of males in each group, you can see there were 21 males in the ashwagandha group, 20 in the placebo group, 11 females in the ashwagandha group, 12 in the placebo group. Look at the mean age, man. 25.8 for ashwagandha, 29.7 for placebo. The weight, 66.1 and 64.9. The WHO well-being index, 10.8, 9.8. Pulse rate, man. Look at how close the pulse rates were. 72.4, 73.4. Systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure. Man, so you you can't say that these two groups were like different. Like they randomized them really well. Okay, I guess they may have used some software to do this. Okay, wherein the computer kind of made sure that there was an even representation of the qualities which the participants display. So very well randomized, incredibly well distributed. Okay. None of the enrolled subjects had any illnesses. Okay, great. One subject reported a history of depression. However, at the time of enrollment, he was free from psychiatric symptoms. The rest of the subjects were free from psychiatric illnesses. Two subjects from the ashwagandha group and one from the placebo group were lost to follow-up. So there were 3 dropouts, we know that. On day 60, 61 subjects had completed the study. So 64 started, 61 completed it. Now this is cool, right?
Yeah.
From an intent to treat point of view, you can see that an intervention of this nature, we don't lose a lot of participants. Whereas when you normally see in like an Atkins diet study or a ketogenic diet study, we see so many dropouts, man. So the Atkins people will be like, oh look, my group lost an average of 10 kilograms, whereas the standard American diet only lost 4 kilograms. But hello, man, you had like 20 dropouts. Okay, you need to consider them too, because they dropped out, they got back on their diet, and they gained some weight. So that's why the intent to treat is really important. Because when you do a statistical analysis, it's only fair that you use all the participants, even the ones who dropped out and who gained weight. It's a reality. So here, the fact that only 3 subjects were lost is great, because the intervention, what we are asking from the participants is very simple. Here, pop a pill. Done. Okay, so I'm going to go through this a little fast.
Yeah, sure.
But we have to talk about the 3 scales. Okay, so we have the PSS, the GHQ-28, and the depression, anxiety, stress scale. One sec, man, I need to spray some Odomos here. Sven, can you just check if the window, the door is closed? There's some mosquitoes, buddy, coming in. Okay, thanks, buddy. So, okay, so we are going to talk about these 3 scales, these 3 seemingly subjective measures, and why they used these 3 scales. So the PSS. Sven, buddy, come on, man. The PSS is perhaps the most commonly used psychological scale for assessing self-perception on the level of stress in one's life. So how else are you going to measure? First, now think about this. Okay, we got cortisol measures. There are some other measures as well. But how else are you going to measure, right? Something. Psychology is largely like this, okay, where you have to ask people and speak to people. Okay. The scale consists of 10 items, with each item measuring the frequency or extent to which a certain stress signaling event occurs. For each item, the score ranges from 0 to 4. Okay, I'm going to go through this quickly now. The PSS score is obtained by summing the score. Okay, cool. On completion of the 60 days of treatment, there was only a okay. So now coming to the data. Table 2 summarizes the data and the results from the key statistical significance test. Now listen to this. On completion of the 60 days of treatment, there was only a 5.5 reduction in baseline PSS scores in the placebo group, compared to 44% in the ashwagandha group. The difference in reduction in PSS scores between the two groups over the 60-day study period was highly statistically significant. Man, check out this p-value. 0.0001. Man, okay, I'm not trying to be a p-value fanboy here, but it is what it is, man. Okay, you want to talk about sample size? Okay, small sample size. Look at that p-value, man. Okay, you you can't just look at the sample size. You have to look at other factors as well. If you are just stuck on the sample size, then you'll never grow up. Okay, fine. I have a small sample size, but the effect I see here is massive, man. Okay, yo, look at the table, dude. Table 2. Check out the baseline score for ashwagandha and placebo. Okay, at baseline, the ashwagandha group had a score of 20.6. The placebo group had a score of 24.6. At day 60, ashwagandha group drops to 11.5. The placebo group is still at around 24, 23.3.
23.3. Yeah.
Okay, the change for baseline was 9.1 points, man. The percentage change from baseline 44 fucking percent. Okay, and 5.5 for the placebo group. Man, if you are familiar with reading research, let me tell you something. This is rare. Stuff like this you don't see every day. You wanted to know why I remember Chandrasekhar? Is when I read this, I was like, ooh. And we are only warming up, man. There are other skills and other measures that we have to look at. So now, here's the cool part. Many psychometric scales do not lend themselves to ratio scale interpretation and translation of increments or decrements to percentage changes. Okay, hear me out. In contrast, all the psychometric scales used in the study are interpreted in the research literature as ratio scale. The crucial property of the scales used in this paper, which allows us to translate increments or decrements to percentage changes, is that the lowest score value is anchored to 0 and corresponds to a state where there are virtually zero stress signaling events. Therefore, each scale value can be interpreted as the absolute degree of self-assessed stress. This is consistent with the many research publications in the stress literature that use such scales. And dude, you'll see the PSS everywhere. Okay, if you want to see if you pull out a paper out of thin air on an SSRI or an SNRI, you'll see the PSS there. Now, what he's trying to say, okay, in that long ass para, is that this is a scale where you can actually perform some, you can actually assign numbers to it. So you can study it, see, there is a subjective scale. So for example, I ask you, Aman Mitra, how are you feeling right now? And I give you 3 options: average, good, excellent. And you circle one. Yeah, cool. But what do I do with that? Can I like take that and play a numbers game with it? I may not be able to. I can if I'm really good with my stats. Someone may be able to do it. But some of these scales are incredibly well thought out. Like he says, you can take the lowest value on that scale and assign it a 0, which means now we can take this subjective data and we can assign numbers to it and we can study those numbers. You get what I'm trying to say, right?
A little bit. I get
Okay.
it.
The scoring system is important. A standardized scoring system is important,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
this scale lends itself to. A lot of scales don't. Okay. Then we move on to the GHQ28. Goldberg and Hillier came up with this questionnaire. So they have 4 distinct items of subsets. So they have somatic symptoms, anxiety and insomnia, social dysfunction, and severe depression. Okay, so they've got these 4 subscales built in. Okay, the score on each scale item measures the frequency or extent to which a certain stress signaling event occurs. For each item subset, the score ranges from 0 to 21. Okay, a score of 21 corresponds to the high frequency of these events. It is common to also report a total score which, okay. Let's check out table 3, okay, now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you go. So, so you can see here's the GHQ28. Now there are these four subsets. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we got the total. So we got the GHQ28 for somatic symptoms. Then we got the GHQ28 for anxiety and insomnia, GHQ28 for social dysfunction, and GHQ28 for severe depression, and then you total it up. So let's see. GHQ28 for somatic symptoms at baseline for ashwagandha was 8.5, for placebo 7.9. On day 60, it dropped to 2.0 for ashwagandha, and it was still around 7.5 for placebo. Let's move on to anxiety and insomnia. For ashwagandha, it went from 9.7 to 2.9. For placebo, 10 to 8.9. You're following along, right? I hope I'm not going to.
Yeah.
For social dysfunction, at baseline, ashwagandha group had 10.6. At day 60, dropped all the way down to 3.4. For social dysfunction, the placebo group actually saw a little increase. They went from 8.7 to 9. And for severe depression, ashwagandha group went from 5.3 to 1.1. And again, we see a little increase in the placebo group. They went from 4.9 to 5.4. In total, day 0, ashwagandha group, their total was 34. Day 60, they dropped to 9.4. The placebo group, day 0, 31.5, day 60, 30.8. So, again, man, and you want to see a percentage change from baseline? 72.3%.
2.3 compared to 2.3%.
Dude, that's an ace, man. Okay, poke fun at me for being this childish and celebrating. Okay, but it's a reality. Okay, people will be like, dude, this is not a professional way of breaking down a scientific paper. Says who? I'll break it down the way I want to. 72%, man, let's celebrate, man. We need to have a Zomato party for this 72% reduction. Okay, come on, man. Come on. You're really going to ignore that? Cool. Ignore it at your own peril, because we are not done. Let's move on. Okay. So now, so they touch on that. Okay. So we've touched on most of that. We've done the table, so we don't need to cover the rest of the writing. We can move on to the DASS right now.
Yeah, now there is another table attached to it. Yeah.
So the depression, anxiety, stress scale, that is table 4. We come to that. Okay. So the depression, anxiety, stress scale questionnaire has 3 distinct item subsets corresponding to stress, characterized as depression, anxiety, and stress. Like with the GHQ28 scale, the score on each scale item measures the frequency or extent to which a certain stress signaling event occurs. For each item subset, the score ranges from 0 to 42. Okay, so we got 0 to 42 here. With a score of 0 connoting the absence or non-incidence of the corresponding category of stress signaling events. We also report the total score, which is a measure of overall stress aggregated over all 3 item subsets. So let's look at table 4 now. Cool?
Yeah.
So table 4. So here again, like with the GHQ28, we had that somatic, anxiety, insomnia, social dysfunction, severe depression. On the DASS, we've got depression, anxiety, and stress. So check it out, man. At baseline, ashwagandha was 17.5 for depression and 18.6 for placebo. Okay. At day 60, the ashwagandha group dropped to 4.0. The placebo group was around 17.6. For anxiety, ashwagandha at baseline 15.9. At day 60, they dropped all the way down to 3.9. For anxiety, the placebo group, 13.4. They actually bumped up a few points and went to 14.0. For stress, baseline 21.4, day 67.7 for ashwagandha. And at baseline, placebo was 22.9, day 60, 20.5. So we got the individual percentage changes. Look at that, man. For depression, 77%. 75.6% change from baseline for anxiety. For stress, 64.2%. The total change from baseline for ashwagandha 71.6%. And what is placebo doing? People who
5%.
don't want to take ashwagandha, 5%. Be happy with this stupid 5%, man. So yeah, why these large effects? Why I'm highlighting these large effects is not just for these large effects. They mean something. Obviously, there's a dramatic effect here. But this goes to show that if I have a small sample size, doesn't mean that small sample size doesn't work if I have something like this show. Very simple, man. If I were to take a coin and start flipping it right now, and if I flipped it 64 times, and all 64 times it landed heads, and I say, oh man, that's too small a sample size. My coin is still fair. It's not biased. I'm not saying that's what happened here. But I'm just trying to give you this whole idea about sample size. Okay, just use common sense. Okay, just use some logic. Just because there's a small sample size doesn't mean we can't use that data. Can we? There's a lot which we can do with it. So yeah, great way to start flipping a coin. Okay, if that coin doesn't start changing after, let's say, flip number 10, oh man, something's happening. Start paying attention. Okay. Oh man, my stupid battery is going low. Okay, let's go serum cortisol. Okay.
हाँ, थोड़ा फास्ट अभी आई डोंट थिंक कि ज्यादा बचा भी नहीं है, मे बी यू कैन गो अ लिटिल
Yeah. Okay. So, firstly, coming to the whole tangible outcome thing, cortisol, baby. Let's go. Serum cortisol. Now, if that's not a tangible outcome, I don't know what is. Is a frequently used biological marker of stress. For this reason, it may be useful to assess the effect of the treatment on cortisol level. Now, we can say something about cortisol and stress and its correlation for another day. We'll save that, okay? Because I can sense someone may want to think about that, but let them think about it on their own, and we'll address it when they bring it up. Table 5 summarizes the data and the results from the key statistical significance test. The serum cortisol levels are measured in microgram per deciliter. Both the groups had similar serum cortisol levels at baseline. Okay, so let's just open the table, man. Tables are so much more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, check this out, man. This table is so good. I love this table. Look at this. For ashwagandha, at baseline, the mean was 15.7 micrograms per deciliter. For placebo, it was 15.6. It's almost like they were identical.
Yeah.
Okay, so great, right? Now you can't like say, oh, so yeah. And day 60, ashwagandha dropped to 11.3 and placebo 14.4. Now, at first glance, that may be like, oh, I didn't move much. But here, look at what is the reference range for cortisol, for serum cortisol in micrograms per deciliter. You can look this up because that is not a scale which goes from 0 to 100 or 0 to 1,000. It's a small reference interval. I believe it goes from 6 to 23. If I'm not mistaken, you can double check that.
Yeah. So even if small changes are happening, it matters.
It matters. And it's a 27.9% change from base. Okay, it's massive. Yeah, they assigned a p-value too. The difference in reduction of serum cortisol levels in the two groups on day 60 was statistically significant at 0.002. Great. And you know what? We're pretty much done with this paper. We've got the safety analysis. You can look at the adverse events, okay? Do that yourself. It's pretty self-explanatory. The table is pretty self-explanatory. But you know what? Look at the author showing off, man. It's very rare, okay? It's very rare that you can show a bar graph like this. See this bar graph?
Yeah, I saw.
You know, usually authors are scratching their heads thinking, okay, how can I make my data look pretty? How can I make this look statistically significant? It's very rare that you can take your data and just be like, here, bar graph, baby. There you go. Look at that percentage change. Hey, Swan, take care. I'll just say bye.
Yeah.
See you, buddy. You see what I take a minute back. So look at that gangster move, man. It's not a gangster move. They probably put it all. They added this very innocently. But I mean, if a picture speaks 1,000 words, okay, a graph speaks 1,000,000, baby. Okay, so um, that's all I have to say about Chandrasekhar 2012. You can look at the discussion. Um, these they've highlighted the limitation of the study sample size, while large enough to establish statistical significance, was not very large. The authors say it, man. Okay, they say there should be a larger study conducted. Um, none has studies using a wider. Okay, okay. They
And
state it.
now looking at the study, even if the sample size was not that big, but it's actually a very good study. And the argument that the follow-ups were made on calls, वो भी maybe we gave a logical reason behind that.
You sent me that screenshot, right? Can you pull it out where on Twitter he had like these criticisms?
Yeah, so let me do that. Uh,
Just pull that out.
Let's see if my
I'm
WhatsApp
man. I think I'll
works.
just get my charger now. You
Yeah.
may want.
Uh,
Yeah, you got it.
yeah, so I got it. So the very first point says very poor design. Then the second point says no
Wait,
sample
let's
size.
go
Yeah,
point
yeah,
wise. Let's go point
yeah.
wise. The burden of proof is on him. What do you mean by very poor design, buddy? Come on, man. Aman Bindra, you may have read a study or two in your. You may have dabbled around with a little research yourself. What's so poor about it?
It
What
looks
could have?
great to me.
It's awesome. It's great design. That's why I said, man. I said that paper is awesome. He was like, it's a bullshit paper. I'm like, dude, that's a bloody good paper. So hey, very poor design. Sorry, excellent design. Okay, now the burden of proof is on you, Dr. Abby, to tell me why the design is poor.
Yeah. Then no sample size. Second
What does
point
that
says no
mean?
sample size. I'm not
What do you
sure.
mean by no sample size? Of course, there's a sample size. What?
Then the third point says underpowered and 64.
Yeah, we touched on this, right? If you're just going to look at n equals 64 and you're going to be like, oh, small sample size, bye, I'm not going to read this paper. Man, that's so childish, man. That is a baby man way of interpreting research. Dude, I'll tell you something. If this paper had 10 participants, I'd still fucking read it. Okay, so yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Then he says bad endpoints.
Bad endpoints. What does he mean by that? Bad. Oh, I think what he means by that is you're using these questionnaires as scales. Okay, so you have the
Mhm.
starting point where you measure their perceived stress on a scale, and then you have this end point. Dude, then you need to dismiss all the research on SSRIs, SNRIs, medication for psychiatric ailments. They use these same scales. What do you mean bad endpoints? Okay, and we have serum cortisol here, right? Come on.
Mhm. Then the
Okay,
fourth
what was
point
the
says
point
no.
before this, man? There's another thought which crossed my mind.
Uh, Before this was underpowered, and then he said N64.
And after that,
Bad endpoints.
oh man, I'll come back to me. Okay, next.
Yeah. So then he says no definition of chronic stress.
Oh, but there is a definition of chronic stress. We touched on that, didn't we?
Mhm.
So, um, yo, when the participants were recruited, They were free of psychiatric conditions. They had a score of less than 15 on the WHO-5 and at least 14 on the perceived stress scale. That's your definition of chronic stress right there.
Then he says functional medicine type description.
Oh man, this is that typical soundbite, okay? Which this that's why I don't like the evidence-based community. I don't get along with these evidence-based guys, and I definitely don't get along with the Ayurvedic community. Okay, I'm not friends with anyone. Okay, um, both of y'all suck. Do something. The thing is, this is the whole functional medicine. Have you heard of this phrase, functional medicine?
No, I haven't.
This whole functional medicine is like this holistic approach to curing an illness where they look at nutrition and exercise, and then they'll add the herbs, and they look at digestive health and sleep, holistic, functional. And then very, very quickly, things start going south because, some of those alternative treatments are like a little too funky.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so what, man, if there's a functional medicine type description? And what is the functional medicine type description? That they used an ashwagandha extract? That's it? Because it belongs to the Ayurvedic umbrella, so you attach functional medicine to it. They've not mentioned, if you do a control F there, there's no mention of the phrase functional medicine there. Okay? So what, even if there is? So what? That's not a criticism. You see, this is what this guy is doing, okay? He's choosing to ignore this because he has a bias against it. He's the one who's biased here. Yeah. What else?
Then the point is non-replicated.
Okay. Now, see, firstly, there are studies which were conducted after this. I'd make the argument that it is replicated. Um, we can touch on some of the research on ashwagandha. What's the time like? It's 2:17, man. Maybe we do
Later.
ashwagandha tomorrow, day
Yeah,
after.
yeah.
Yeah, we can do it now, buddy. I'm good. I'm good. No
You,
problem.
I'm fine with it, but then, yeah, maybe we can do it later, however you want to.
I'm good, man. I'm no problem. We decide after we get through his criticisms whether we want to touch on more ashwagandha research, or first he needs to kind of
Yeah.
dig himself out of this hole he's found himself in. Dude, I don't even have to touch on this. We need to first settle Chandrasekhar, man. Justice for Chandrasekhar. Okay? Get on the streets, everyone. Nutrition codes. Get your Chandrasekhar placards and get out there, man. Everyone, go to Abby Phillips's house and peaceful protest. Okay? Justice for Chandrasekhar, 2012.
Then he says single center.
Yeah, singles, dude. Again, man. Childish criticism. Yeah, single center is simple. Okay? As the name implies, it's at a single center, at one facility. What do you want, man? Okay, sometimes they have multiple centers so that they get multiple populations involved, different cohorts and all that. You don't need. Why do you want? What's your problem with the single center? You can't just say single center, right? You have to explain what is the big problem with the single center approach they've used in the study. And I get it, okay? There are some genuine issues with single center studies. How does that apply to this paper? Is the burden of proof lies on Abby Phillips to demonstrate that.
Then the point is follow up on the phone calls.
We touched on the phone call
Yeah.
thing again. Childish, man.
Then the point is no tangible outcome measures question mark.
I already touched on the scales and why these specific scales have relevance. Okay, man. In um, psychological outcomes are psychological, man. Okay, that's a reality. Psychological outcomes have to be communicated. Okay, you have to ask the person how they're feeling. And there are reasons why these scales are important, because you can assign some numbers to them. And hello, did you forget about cortisol? Man, I want to touch on cortisol a little bit, because think about this, man. If all I do, if I don't change anything about my life, okay, right now, and if I can only bring my cortisol levels down, if I'm incredibly stressed and anxious, and all I do is pop a pill and bring my cortisol down, then that fixes so much, right? That fixes so much. I don't have to heckle my environment, nothing. Think about that, man. Just think about that. And the relevance here is, hey, I dare you, find something which lowers cortisol. Okay, now don't say exercise and nutrition and all of that. Okay, find something which has ashwagandha level safety, efficacy, acceptance, non-stigmatized. Okay, maybe I'm doing too much. Okay, find something which lowers cortisol the way ashwagandha does. Go ahead, find something.
So I have a question on this particular point he mentioned. He said no tangible outcome measure. So you said using the scale had a purpose. So if not scale, what were we looking at? I mean, we have the this thing, cortisol biomarker, but other than that, what are the things we can measure?
Man, so if you look at this from a neuroscience perspective,
Mhm.
man, there are things. Okay, there's brain activity which you can study. Okay, there are fMRI scans. There's a lot of stuff which you can get into. Again, the data there is, as far as I know,
Mhm.
is still preliminary. For example, when it comes to SSRI and SNRI use, a lot of pharmaceutical treatments which we have to tackle depression and anxiety, they haven't been studied with the rigor which Abby Phillips expects. Okay, if he wants people to go through fMRI scans or whatever he wants, okay, if he wants to observe some more biochemical markers, the burden of proof is on him. What could Chandrasekhar have done? Okay, which would make this a somewhat decent paper. I'm not saying, hey, good paper, yay, hooray. Okay, I said that, but I said that to kind of oppose his aggressive attack against Chandrasekhar. Okay, this is one piece of the puzzle, man. A very important piece. Don't dismiss it. That's not how research is done, and that's definitely not how research is interpreted. That's not how you read between the lines.
Yeah. So the last point being a resistance towards stress.
But
So before this, he said no tangible outcome measure, question mark. And on the last line, he said resistance towards stress.
what does that mean?
I am not sure about that.
Even I'm not sure. What does that mean? So cool, man. See, Abby Phillips, here's what, yo, he made a comment. Okay, he's like, I've not critiqued the paper yet. Do go ahead, critique it. Yo, dude,
So
I'm.
someone said in the comment, he means what about resistance towards stress?
What do you mean by that?
Even I'm kind of trying to break that down.
Yeah. How is that relevant to the discussion? How is that a criticism? Okay.
Uh, he says some people can manage stress better compared to others. Saeed Ahmed
Oh,
is
okay.
posting.
Oh, so he's like that wasn't measured in advance. That okay, are some people more resilient? Man, come on. They took a they took a bunch of people, randomly assigned them into two groups. Okay, that's it,
Yeah.
done. Hey, by the way, now we're going to have some disturbance creeping in. It started already, but do you have like
Let
another
me
head?
let me try. Am I audible now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's better now.
Yeah.
So yeah, why does that? Man, it's simple. Okay, you take a bunch of people. Okay, you randomize them into two groups. You give one the treatment, you don't give the other the treatment. One group does significantly better. End of story. Okay. Now you can go back in time and say, oh, maybe I could have measured their resilience to stress. How is that relevant here?
So that's it. That was his criticism, and then he said that this is not a complete criticism. Maybe he will mail it to you.
Hey, firstly, he didn't mail me jack, okay? I checked my spam, everything. I got no email. Secondly, I told him I'm not on Twitter. Okay, he still went on Twitter anyways. He kind of see, man. I don't mean to be like rude and all over here. He's a gentleman. I want to be a gentleman in return. But come on, man. Like, how can you dismiss Ashwagandha? And dude, we've not even scratched the surface on Ashwagandha. This is Chandrasekhar 2012. Trust me, dude. I can speak about Ashwagandha for hours. A very honest assessment of ashwagandha. I'm not saying, oh, ashwagandha pure. There are no downsides of. There are some reported sides also of ashwagandha. We know there are certain populations which should use them, certain populations which shouldn't. Just like with medicine, some people qualify, some people don't. But man, if you are going to ignore ashwagandha, if you're going to ignore a good extract of ashwagandha, that's wrong. Okay, how else do I put this, Aman Bendra? That is just wrong. Okay, whether you can call it malpractice or not, I like this guy, man. I don't want to accuse him of malpractice. But again, it's that whole thing, man. When people say don't use supplements, or don't use this remedy because the Ayurvedic community first started talking about it, start looking at stop assigning the Ayurveda label to everything and start looking each ingredient or each compound on a case by case basis. Ignore where it came from. It's a stupid plant. We studied it. It does something and it does a lot. Use it. Okay? The hallmark of evidence-based medicine is anything can be used as medicine if it works.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha fucking works, okay? And works really well. I'm telling you, you can verify this yourself. It rivals a lot of pharmaceutical treatments we have for anxiety. It does better. Now you tell me, as a therapist or a doctor or whatever, dude, who are we, man? We're fucking kids, both of us. We've not studied. I didn't go to medical school. Fine. I read a lot of medical textbooks and my parents taught me a lot. Cool. I'm privileged in that regard. But at the end of the day, we're just kids, man. And if we can kind of look around here and there and realize, oh, that ashwagandha thing is a little cool, maybe you can use it. And you being a doctor with this decades of experience, you've published, and you are not familiar with the data on ashwagandha. A, you choose not to be familiar with the data on ashwagandha. You just want to dismiss it because you have a bias, a strong bias, and I get it where that bias comes from. You've seen your patients suffer, but recognize that that's a bias, man. Have you seen some of my powerlifting clients? Fucking insane, dude. Okay, that does not mean I take everyone and say it's time to powerlift, baby. It's not. It doesn't work that way. Everyone doesn't start powerlifting because all my powerlifting clients are doing so well. They are jacked and they are strong and are mentally and physically bulletproof. That doesn't mean powerlifting is doing that to them. That doesn't mean I put everyone on powerlifting. And anything which falls outside of powerlifting, I start making fun of, like maybe Zumba or Pilates. That's what we do, right? In the evidence-based fitness community, Mike Israel, hi, dumbbells, baby, bands, suspension trainers. We want to poke fun at that. Why? Because we don't understand how they work. Why? Because hi, Anish Manohar and Shubham Padalkar. It's just physics, man. It's just simple physics. You apply it to anything. You draw a free body diagram, here you go. Now you know that something like this works. So again, shout out to Amreen Chadda, man, A lot of what I understand and accept in terms of options for exercise, that comes from her. Because I used to, I've been in this realm, man, this evidence-based realm where I'm like, barbells, dumbbells, periodization, cool. And yeah, it's very easy to like then poke fun at other people, and guess what? Those other people are doing much better than you.
Yeah,
Um,
this is also something maybe I will invite Amreen to speak about. I want to know her maybe understanding on. I see her doing this animal movements and stuff, and I see a lot of people doing that. I just want to understand why they do it, how does it help, and all of that. So maybe I will invite her on the show.
Man, is Amreen still watching? She's
Yeah,
going
she
to kick
is.
my ass for this, okay? But I remember this conversation we had maybe a year or so ago, and she's like, "Man, I'm exploring animal flow." I'm like, "Why?" Kind of like I obviously
Yeah,
put it across.
this is the way I think about it. I'm like, why? क्यों करना है ये सब? But then I want to understand what's the reason behind.
Man, and then today I'm like, why not? Because the the situations you'll find yourself in while performing this animal flow activity
Mhm.
is something you're not going to find yourself when you have a barbell on your back or dumbbells in your hands. You are going to explore joint positions, ranges of motion, bad technique, which is important. Think about sport, man. Every time I take a swing to kick the ball, my lumbar spine is rounding with a lot of force. There's a lot. Look at my spine rounding. Oh, disc herniation. Rolly, go does that to a football player. That stupid Sunit Sebastian. Go and check his stupid website. He's got that form assessment thing. Okay, him and that Candido, Johnny Candido, the stupid crybaby, Scott University, terrible. Okay, they want to nitpick about the smallest deficits in technique. Have you guys ever played sport, man? I'm not making an argument for sport, okay? Sport has its problems. So that's why there's sports medicine because people keep getting injured. What are you going to tell? Are you going to tell a football player, "Oh my goodness, man, you can't kick that way. You'll get hurt." Tell that to Cristiano Ronaldo, man. Okay? You think his heels are always on the floor when he's applying force against the ground? No, they're not. So they're like, just see how people move.
Very first time I came across animal flow was when Connor started doing it. So he started doing it some 4 5 years
Conor
back.
McGregor.
Yeah, he started doing it. So
Oh.
he has a trainer. I forgot his name. He's very popular. Plato something is his name. So Connor started doing animal flow, and this is the first time I saw people anyone doing the animal flow.
But you look at him, no, he's pretty loose, limber,
Yeah.
and see, man, exercise is force. Okay, it's internal force versus an external force. It's like a little tug of war of force, more specifically torque. You can only explore so much varieties of force when you limit yourself to a few exercises. Okay, because every time you do something different or new, you find yourself in positions, you experience forces and joint forces which are just different, which your body has to adapt to. That makes you better, man. There's a reason Amreen is how she is. She doesn't just know her stuff. She she puts it in action. Man, she's limber, strong, athletic. Um, some of the stuff which she can do, I wish I could do some of that stuff. It's the truth.
So I remember the name. Portal. I Portal is the name of Connor's trainer who was teaching him animal flow.
Cool, man. You like Conor McGregor, I see.
Yeah, I used to follow him very closely. So he did this 4 5 years back.
He's pretty inspiring, man. I used to like the guy too, but man, some of the stuff which he's done, no, I'm like,
Over the
dude,
time he has changed a lot, and now I kind of I don't like look up to him, but yeah, I am still a fan, and I looked up to him at one point.
Yeah. Here's another pro tip, okay? Don't be afraid to make mistakes. The world will forgive you as long as you rectify those mistakes somehow. Like, the mistakes that guy has made, some of that stuff is unforgivable, man. Like, I still look at that and I'm like,
That
geez, dude, you
video
punched an
came
old
that
man.
when he punched him, this old man in the bar. उसको देख के मैं भी बोला कि यार क्या मतलब क्या हो गया इसको.
Yeah, yeah, so whatever. But Khabib, man, how can you not like Khabib? He's a real gangster. Okay. Khabib, Khabib over corner any day, man, any day. Habib, Habib. So, and one final thing, okay? I
Yeah.
think Abby touched on this. He asked me about, okay, what are we looking at, okay, when we talk about ashwagandha? What part of ashwagandha? That's what he was asking, right? Then we touched on methanolides, but I just told you that there are other alkaloids and lactones and other kind of constituents which the ashwagandha root possesses. And he's like, okay, tell me how it works. I don't have to tell you how it works. I just have to tell you it works. Think about this, man. Yo, this is falling down right now. Why is it falling down? I don't fucking know. Think about pre-Newton times, okay? Newton came about and he kind of explained this nicely. But if you asked someone pre-Newton, hey, this is happening. Why is it fucking happening? I don't fucking know, man. It just happened. But this is the reality. So when you administer ashwagandha to someone and they feel better, they just fucking feel better. And if it's safe and it's showing a profound effect, you can't ignore that because that's why we have empirical evidence, right? We have we conduct scientific research for this purpose. That at the end of the day, you may hypothesize something. You may mechanistically understand a few things. You may predict that this is what is supposed to happen. But if that does not happen and something else fucking happens, then respect that. Yo, great time to bring up antioxidants. Vitamin C and E. Everyone hypothesized that, oh, antioxidants around exercise are a good thing, right? Because they drive oxidation down. There's so much in the way of reactive oxygen species. Let's like neutralize them right away, man. Vitamin C and E. That's your hypothesis. That's what you knew about the world. And guess what happens? You give vitamin C and E around exercise, and instead of things going up, things go down. Your ability to recover reduces, strength reduces, your ability to build muscle reduces. Now,
I
why
guess
does
this
that
was
happen?
recently, a few years back, this maybe research came in the evidence-based community started posting this that, yeah, this around the exercise is not a good idea.
Dude, it's not recent at all. We've had research about this since the
Mm.
90s.
Ah, okay.
Okay, the first time antioxidants showed a potential negative effect on exercise performance, strength, muscle, and other markers was all the way back in the 90s. Okay, see, there's a reality about the nutrition and exercise industry. Okay, we are slow as fuck.
Mm.
So this thing happened all the way back in the 90s, and then maybe someone recently wrote about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and everyone thinks, oh man, so cool. No man, it's not cool. It's old. So just because someone put it on Instagram or Facebook does not make it novel. So what was I trying to get at? Yeah, you expect something from vitamin C and E, and the opposite happens. Now, why does that fucking happen? Now there are some potential reasons we've identified, but it's okay if I don't know why it happens. I do know one thing, that I don't want to take vitamin C and E around exercise. I have to respect that. I can't fight that now because that's what the empirical data shows. Likewise, I fucking know now that I need to stop swearing, man. I need to calm down. Likewise, this is where I need to get someone to edit my videos, man. Then people start like, this is the, and this is where something like when we have KSM 66 ashwagandha, and we see cortisol levels reducing, people becoming less anxious or alleviating their anxiety completely, stress levels dropping, people from being crybabies, they're partying and dancing now. Man, that's a reality. Accept it and start using it before it's too late. Well, when are you going to use it, Abby Phillips? Hey, Abby, you you better start using ashwagandha. You said that if I show you research which demonstrates that ashwagandha is cool, you'll start using it, right? I'll do it for you, man. And then you thank me later, okay, for ashwagandha. Go ahead, man. Stay true to your guns, okay? Stay true to your guns. You messed with the wrong dude here, buddy. Okay? If if this was some other Ayurvedic doctor from some company, then yeah, maybe you could heckle him a little, but you can't do that to me, man. And yeah, so it's time to use ashwagandha. I mean, hey, you send me your address, I'll send you some KSM 66. Start using. You need the KSM 66. You know why? Because if you want to debate me, Abby Phillips, you need some KSM 66 ashwagandha. I'm going to keep you on your toes. Okay? Come on, buddy. Come at me now with your ashwagandha papers and everything. Let's have an ashwagandha back and forth. And you think I'm going to stop at ashwagandha? There's so much more good stuff, man, which falls under the Ayurvedic umbrella. So for now, I'm on Team Ayurveda. Why? Because I have an opponent. Otherwise, no one wants to debate me. No one wants to chill with me also. So, yeah. Yeah, and one more. I'll give you, hey, Abby, one more thing, okay, buddy. Get a team, man. Okay? Get other doctors on board. Don't try and step foot in this type of a setting alone. Okay? Hey, that was your moment to shine with Aman Duggal, so I kind of left you, okay, in that interview. And I respect you for the work you're doing. You step foot in this situation with me one-on-one. All the best to you. I would suggest you get a team. So yeah, that's it. I'm done, man.
Yeah.
Oh, or do you want to touch on ashwagandha? More ashwagandha, like more research on ashwagandha.
Not for now. I mean, pretty much at 2.5 hours of session. So I guess maybe
That's
we will do
it.
it later. Yeah.
That's it. Really swarming up, baby.
3 घंटे होने वाले हैं अभी. But
Any,
this was actually a very nice session. If you allow me to, maybe I will post it on my IGTV too.
go ahead, man. Post
Yeah.
it anywhere.
Well, there are a lot of things I learned through this particular live. I'm very sure a lot of people will.
Hey, you're welcome, buddy. And
Yeah.
what else? I forgot. Any questions?
Not for now. I don't have any. Someone typed a comment. He's not heckling you. It's just that he's biased towards, and his argument are more of from emotion than anything else. So he says A.B. Phillips is kind of biased, and the arguments are more of emotions than anything else.
Hey, man. See, firstly, you can't heckle me, okay? What? You kids are going to heckle me now? Come on. It's not possible. But he did attempt to heckle me. Okay? He tried to say that, oh, you have to read between the lines of a paper and go read the comments, man, which he's left on my Instagram. He's trying to say that I have an agenda. I'm Team Ashwagandha, okay? He probably thinks that KSM 66 is paying me to do this right now. And yeah, all of that stuff. He's trying to, but you can't, man. Like this with this childish interpretation of scientific research, these common evidence-based sound bites, man. I've seen enough of them, man. Okay, this evidence-based community is childish. Like seriously, most of these science groupies, Okay, we are sciencing correctly. Oh, please, man, you don't even know what science is. Most people don't even know what the scientific method is. And yeah, these are realities. Okay, everyone wants to be on team science. Okay, because it's a cool thing now, right? Team science, baby, cool thing. We have evolved from pro science to team science. Okay, Lane Norton, baby, Brad Schoenfeld. Come on, man. You really think a couple of meatheads who got a PhD know what they're talking about? Soon, man. Wait till Brad publishes his new book. I'm going to break it apart chapter by chapter. And then what's he going to do? He's going to debate me. And I'm going to send him back to school. That's a promise. So, yeah. Whatever, man. I'm bored now. We should do an ashwagandha thing, dude. I can put together a presentation for ashwagandha.
Yeah, let's do it. That would be great. We will get to learn a
Yeah,
lot of stuff.
yeah. Get happy, okay? I want a debate. I don't want this.
Yeah, so I will share this video with him, and maybe I will ask him to maybe come live with you.
Yeah. And Abby, now you can take your time, okay? Now you can take 2 to 3 weeks, okay? Prepare well, okay? Prepare nicely. You need to prepare, and you need to get your friends, dude, from the evidence-based medical community. Get them, get all of them, man. Get your professors, get some seniors, man. Get some PhDs. Yeah, go ahead. Try and take a jab at me.
Yeah, so we are pretty much done with it. Thanks, bye. Thanks for
Awesome.
doing this. I learned a lot of things, and I hope जो भी देखेगा we also learn it.
Yo, dude, Sayed just accused me. You work with Baba Ram.
अरे वो मजाक कर रहा है यार.
I know he's joking, dude. But I'll tell you something, okay? If Baba Ramdev reaches out, I wouldn't mind becoming friends with him. Hey, Baba Ramdev. Hey, namaskar. Hit me up, buddy. Okay? We'll make your stupid coronal better, okay, together. Yeah.
So yeah, we are done with the session. ठीक है भाई. Thank you again. Thank you for
Hey,
doing this.
you're
I will
welcome.
save the session now.
Awesome, dude. Hey, please save it, okay? Like,
Yeah, yeah, I
we
will.
should not.
Yeah, I.
Awesome, buddy. Good
Okay,
night,
bye.
man.
Good night, bye. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.